Welcome everyone. While we're waiting, please, if you didn't take the survey, please take the survey. It will take you only 1 minute to complete all the questions. Why are we taking those surveys? We using this information, we using your responses for our reports. So we're about to finish our voice of the market report in a few weeks, 2 3 weeks, and we need your answers desperately, I would say. So, welcome everyone. We're happy to see you all. We're happy to see you at this is our 8th event, right? This is exactly 2 years since we started at our quarterly events. So, please take the survey. And before we start, I would like, let's have a moment of silence and remember our soldiers who defended our land from the Russian invaders. Thank you. Please have a seat. In 2 words, I know many of you know us very well. We are Andrew Klima and Mark Mochnamy. We are founders of Ukrainian Business News and Ukrainian Business Network. Again, we are a media company, but Mark and I, we founded Ukrainian Business Network a little bit over 2 years because we saw the need for people to reconnect. Unfortunately, we had COVID, and then we have full-scale invasion, and it feels like people stopped communicating with each other, networking, and we saw a huge need, especially to reconnect Ukrainian businesses with foreign businesses doing business in Ukraine, working in Ukraine, or despite the war, investing in Ukraine. So this is our 8th event, and as you know, we hold our quarterly event here in Parkovy. And a few words about you see the list of our members. We're pleased to have one of the members here, European Commission. Just yesterday, they added 20 more subscribers. We have close to 200 subscribers from the European Commission, and we're proud of that. These are our members. We also would like to welcome a few new members is Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, serving Ukrainian and Norwegian businesses and promoting doing business in Ukraine and building that bridge between Ukraine and Norway. We're pleased to have them as a new client. We're also pleased to have a new client, UBN network member, Willers Towers Watson, that became our premium UBN member. Actually, also, as you know, WTW is a multinational advisory firm, and that provides insurance solutions. And we also have one new client, Objective Ukraine, which provides appropriate security risk management, business development advice, and visual operations supply services. And Simon Woodward, he is in the room with us. And we also would like to welcome our premium member, GDI Integrations, and they became upgraded to premium membership. Premium GDI Integration is a supplier and system integrator specializing in unmanned systems, expeditionary site support, physical security, anti-terrorism force protection, tactical communication systems, and other services. So, again, a few words about our membership, and we're going to move forward. So we are Ukrainian Business News. You I would say 95% of you subscribe to Ukraine Business News. We update our readers on the latest developments from Ukraine. So we had a couple of clients who after 6 months actually commented that actually after reading news daily, we understand what is happening in Ukraine, who is investing, who is not, and what is happening in Ukraine in general. Also, there is an option to subscribe not just to the news, but also to our 20 economic reports that gain its popularity. And also UBN Network annual membership. There's a few options. We are always happy to discuss with you after the event. So we would like, those events wouldn't be possible without our general sponsor, Piraeus Bank. And Piraeus Bank supported us right from the beginning. And we're proud to have him as our support for Ukraine Business News and Ukraine Business Network. The Greek bank, with over 100 years of history, entered the Ukrainian market back in 2007, and they have been serving Ukrainian international clients for 18 years. Piraeus Bank has been a trusted partner for Ukrainian businesses and investors, providing reliable financial solutions even in challenging times. Through strategic partnership with various international financial institutions such as DFC, EFCE, and EIB, Piraeus Bank enables long-term financing for small and medium-sized enterprises, support investments in critical sectors, and help modernize business across Ukraine. For instance, guarantees from DFC allow loans of up to $25 million with reduced risk, while European Fund for Southern Europe programs combine credit regions grow sustainably. All initiatives demonstrate that Piraeus Bank goes beyond being just a bank. It acts as a partner, combined to consistent growth of Ukraine business and enhancing the country's economic resilience. Thank you, Piraeus Bank. Those lavish events actually happening thanks to our general partner. So, and we have another energy partner, Alteca. Alteca offers turnkey green solutions and provides all-in-one service for renewable energy projects, handling everything from initial consultation, assessment, design to installation, commissioning, and ongoing maintenance with minimal hassle for the client. The Alteca has completed 200 megawatts worth of completed projects. Alteca has been on the market for 15 years. They are experts not only in solar power plants, but also provide turnkey solutions for battery energy storage systems. And we have Alexander Danchevsky in the room, and thank you for his support and his team for being our sponsor as well. So, all right. So, just a last thing, our other sponsor, Gamondi, when you guys stay through the whole event, we're going to have drinks served by Gamonti. And a few small changes before Mark starts. So we decided to have Mark's political and macroeconomic outlook. And after that, we going to have at 17 says a few words about the equipment. You can test and put the analysis and test this equipment and see how the Ukrainian armed forces are being trained to shut down the Russian drones. So, and after that, we're going to have a break. After the break, we want to make sure you're not hungry, because I see people can't stay through the whole panel. They rush into the cafeteria and grab something to eat without even finishing, without even sitting through the whole panel. So, Mark will speak, then we're going to have L7 for 5 minutes, and we'll have a break. And after the break, we're going to have a first and second panel. All right, so I'd like to welcome Mark Martinagami, my friend, a business partner and co-founder of Ukraine Business Network.
Great, thank you for the intro, Andrew. Most of you know the setup, how we go here, but I'll just do a quick 30 minutes, hopefully, updates basically on what's happened in the last 3 months and what it means for Ukraine. In 10 seconds, the Trump roller coaster has continued, as you're all following. So that's, I mean, if you want to go get a bite to eat and ignore the rest, that's kind of the summary of what I'll talk about here. But we'll go into a lot more depth and actually even more positive developments. Of course, we're not fully satisfied, but even more positive developments the last 3 months compared to where we were in June, for those of you who attended our June event. So first things first, it seems like years ago, but it's only 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, that we had the summits in DC and in Alaska. Not necessarily great for Ukraine, but actually not bad either. So could have been much worse is the point. Since then, we're actually seeing Western resolve somewhat strengthening. And I know that seems a little bit strange after what we just watched this past week when we see incursions into Estonia, Poland, Denmark, etc., and we do nothing. But things are moving in the right direction there as well. I'll explain why I believe that's the case. And at the end of the day, remember, we are in a war of attrition. So where are we moving into for 2026? For businesses, as you're planning, what should you expect for the war, how it develops? So you look at underlying resources on both sides for Ukraine and Russia. So we'll do a sort of a quick examination side by side. What can we expect for the next year? And there's a lot of political, that's the important point to focus on, political and economic financial pressures on both sides. So we'll talk about that in more depth as well. More for the business side of things is that we have seen clearly, this is from anecdotal evidence, speaking with companies every day, really for the last 3-4 months, business surveys, we have seen, unfortunately, just being realistic, a pretty clear downturn in sentiment. And so looking into 2026, we have seen a little bit more pessimism from companies on the domestic market in Ukraine. We're still resilient, we're still sustaining the economy, but there's clearly less optimism than, say, a year ago from where we were. So where are talks currently? For those of you who have come to the event, you've seen this slide. I'm showing it intentionally over and over and over because nothing has really fundamentally changed from literally when Trump was elected. We've been showing this since last November. Talks initiated, pressure on Ukraine, as we saw. Russia engages insincerely in delays. This is all quite predictable. Trump gets frustrated. He's been frustrated for a few months now. It seems like he's getting more and more frustrated, and directed not towards Zelensky, but towards Putin, thankfully. And then he has to make sort of a choice, abandon or support Ukraine in some form. And what does that look like? I'll describe future slides what that looks like. But we've been in this pattern now for about 3 months. Mr. 2 weeks keeps delaying and delaying and delaying. So we remain still in this pattern, but it is about time. And particularly this past week, the comments that he made were rather decisive to now moving into sort of a decision here of how things develop going forward. It's been a long time, a long process, but that's what's been going on. Very, very briefly, the latest. I'm putting a few events up here so we don't actually forget. 2 months ago, 3 months ago, back in June, for example, and into July, U.S. transatlantic unity reconfirmed, which was absolutely critical. So U.S.-EU trade deal, that was actually very, very important. Okay, EU sacrificed a lot, but for a good cause. Plus, you have the NATO summit in The Hague, U.S. reconfirming Article 5. Okay, NATO sales of military equipment to Europe. These things are all very positive. Could have gone in a different direction, of course. So don't forget that. As mentioned, we'll talk about Alaska and DC. Air raids, I won't go into much depth because we have a whole panel talking about this, but air raids are intensifying, of course, as we're seeing in both territories. So don't forget everything that's happening in Russia. Okay, don't lose sight of that, and it's actually quite dramatic and could shift the balance of things. We'll hear from the German panel later, but could shift the battle of things in the coming months. Political and economic pressures, as mentioned, mounting in both sides, right? So both financial economic pressures plus on the political side, and unfortunately, with Zelensky, the protests that we saw, the political pressures domestically here as well. And again, we'll get to some of those topics. In the panel discussion, Russian incursions into NATO territory. This is, of course, the topic of the day. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. So we'll do some polling on NATO's response or Europe's response to these incursions. And then, of course, what we see just on Tuesday. So let's see what we see next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that. But at least this past Tuesday, we saw some positive news coming from Trump's tweet and comments to Macron and Zelensky. So starting from going back, it seems like ancient history now, we do remain on a positive trajectory, despite the fact that we have, as an American, watching U.S. soldiers on U.S. soil, laying down the red carpet for a war criminal, as disgusting as that is, unfortunately. Compare that obviously to how Trump treated Zelensky back in February. Really concerning and beyond frustrating. But more substantively, Trump, this is a little bit concerning, moved, of course, he dropped a ceasefire. From the time of his campaign, he was saying ceasefire, 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 and then after that, let's talk and figure out things. And then Putin basically convinced him in the course of an hour to drop that need to reach a ceasefire first. So that's, of course, concerning. But the biggest thing, which I think people aren't focused on too much, is that, again, this is a war of attrition. We need to beat Russia because we need to undermine Putin domestically within Russia. And that means undermine the entire system, economic, financial, political system, undermine his domestic support amongst the elites. By Trump doing this, inviting him, rewarding him with a meeting, giving Russia, as they've always desired, this recognition, this respect from the West, and particularly from the United States, bringing him to U.S. soil. Trump did the work of Kremlin propagandists and the entire Kremlin team of 10 years that they could never do on their own. Putin makes zero concessions, says no to any ceasefire over and over, and Trump says, and committing war crimes for 3.5 years, Trump says, no problem, come here. What does that tell the domestic elites who we want to obviously try to push Putin out of power? What does it tell them in Russia? It tells them, behave like this and you get rewarded. Right? So, obviously terrible in terms of diplomacy and then what it could have achieved. However, then we had the DC summit, thankfully, a couple days later, and then we have U.S. involvement in security guarantees. Compare that to February, the Oval Office fight. Why did they start fighting? Zelensky looked at Vance and Trump and he said, sure, I can maybe give up land for peace, but what about security guarantees? And then they tell him you don't have the cards, et cetera, why aren't you wearing a suit, blah, blah, blah. Now we have the U.S. actually repeatedly over the last 3 months say that they would be involved in some form of security guarantees, which is absolutely critical, and again, aligning with European partners, which is important. Trump didn't actually give in to Putin. Putin wanted him to sell out Ukraine. Trump didn't do it. Trump could have done it, and he didn't. And maybe if this summit occurred in March, maybe Trump would have, okay? But he didn't, so we should, again, we're avoiding negatives, okay? But that's still moving in the right direction. Plus, the arms sales continue, the sanctions continue, and I tend to believe, I'll explain why, sanctions will likely increase. I believe that the US and the EU will come to some sort of agreement to increase and tighten sanctions. And most critically, the war is being fought over Ukraine's sovereignty, right? It's not a war about Ukrainian land or anything. It's Russian Empire expanding and taking the sovereignty, the independence of Ukraine. As Trump said, we can't force a deal on Ukraine because the US, the Western world, inherently recognizes Ukraine as an independent, sovereign nation. And that's why this war is being fought. And this is the crux of the situation. The Western world believes in international law, international norms, sovereignty, self-determination, and Putin and his empire do not. So seeing phrases like this, and J.D. Vance has said the same thing numerous times, is actually, again, encouraging, moving in the right direction, not selling out Ukraine, not forcing them to swallow a terrible peace deal. Now, since then, okay, it's gotten more positive, but also a little more proof that Trump is, in fact, likely insane. So if you go back to Tuesday, I would say ignore the first half of the day when he gave the speech at the UN. I mean, unless you want to hear how America is the greatest country in the world and Trump made it the greatest country in the world in 9 months and all the countries are terrible. I summarized it for you so you don't have to look it up. Pay attention to the second half of the day when he had meetings with Zelensky, with Macron, his tweet. That was far more important and encouraging. He said things he had never said before. Okay, numerous things. I think Ukraine with support can win. Okay, and Trump winning is for Americans. Winning is the greatest thing possible, right? So saying words like this is critical, and he never spoke like this before. Zelensky is a brave man. Compare that to how he spoke to Zelensky back in February, right? Great respect for Ukraine. It's simply amazing. Making Russia look like a paper tiger. Right? Again, compared to the language earlier in the year, this is promoting the idea that with enough strength and force, we can push Russia over the edge and we can beat them. Right? And by the way, why do you think some of these NATO incursions are occurring by Russia? Russia understands, Putin understands, they're getting bolder in the West. Putin only knows the language of force. So let's remind Europe and NATO of the costs of getting a little bit bolder against me and thinking you can win. Okay? These things aren't just coincidental. Putin's responding. This is probably the most important thing, frankly. Trump is a deep believer in his own personal charm and charisma, right? And you realize it failed. Nothing was swaying Putin or any of them. And that was obvious to all of us in this room, of course, since the beginning. But for Trump to admit that this is going to work, we got to take some other path, that's critical. And that's what, again, my moderately optimistic about things develop. And then, do you think NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft? Trump said, yes, I do. Mike Waltz, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, likewise, when asked the same question, said the same thing. So that's very, very good. The U.S. ambassador to NATO also said the same thing. So encouraging comments, of course, coming from the United States. So I'll explain my view and what I think, but I will ask all of you, and you can take out your phones, and please scan the QR code and answer the question, will Trump impose harsh sanctions on Russia? Remember, we already have military sales coming, so that's good, right? The existing sanctions are there, not being repealed, okay? And now the question is, can we get more sanctions? Unfortunately, we're not going to get financial or humanitarian and budgetary support from the United States. That's going to fall on Europe, but now the real lingering question is about sanctions. Ooh. Not many people believe in Donald Trump, huh?
It's like 70%, like, that's it.
73%.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a weird line. Weird line. So full of film.
Okay. All right. Well, then I have my argument. I have my work cut out for me because I actually disagree with this. And I really am not just a dumb American optimist. I do believe it. Okay. So I understand the pessimism, of course. So what's happened? What the hell is going on? What is with Trump? Right? Very, very different language just in the last week compared to earlier. A couple of things. One, it is hard for us to understand outside of the United States, but Donald Trump, when he's forming whatever policy, he wakes up in the morning, all he's thinking is, what did the Democrats do? Okay, they're pure evil and bad, so I will by definition do the opposite. So he came into office, one of the driving policies of his Russia policy was, Democrats did A, so that must be wrong, so I'm going to consider B, C, and D and all other options before, after 9 months, it took him to get back to the idea that actually the Democrats were more or less on the right path of supporting Ukraine. And I think that's where we are. And it's really just as simple, and this is something for non-Americans, it's difficult to understand, that this is really, the domestic culture wars, the partisan politics of the U.S. drives policy to that degree, unfortunately. Also, as I mentioned, believing his charm, his charisma could win over Putin. The good thing is he's kind of dropped that, it seems like. But we do have the issue that he still clearly wants to be liked. He wants to be loved by Putin. He wants to be seen as one of the great leaders, maybe having his own sphere of influence. Putin has his own sphere of influence. Xi Jinping has his own sphere of influence, right? He loves this idea. That's quite clear. That appeals to his vanity, his ego. The good news is, this seems to be out of the way. So we moved to the right policy, and he no longer seems to believe this. The problem is, we still have this lingering issue this is why I think everybody, including myself, we're worried what Putin calls him tomorrow, and what type of conversation do they have, and then does Trump do a 180? I think everybody's worried about that, and that's because of this. And I agree with that, but I think these other factors, taking those away, leaves me more encouraged. So what does it actually mean for Ukraine? This is a huge step in the right direction, right? It's not a final policy, of course, but again, this roller coaster, it keeps moving. There's ups and downs, keeps moving in general in Ukraine's direction, more and more and more every single month. And you can see this in polling. And I'm showing this because this is this past summer. After the U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal, you saw a huge jump because you saw a change in the rhetoric coming from Trump and the Republicans. They started to be much more supportive and positive about Ukraine. So then you started to see the Republicans who become actually quite negative towards Ukraine, becoming much, much more supportive. Very 21% jump in support in just a matter of weeks because Trump changed the rhetoric. So I fully expect, now that Trump has changed his rhetoric even more dramatically, see an even further jump in support. Okay, so I think we should be expecting 2/3, 75% of Americans now much more strongly supporting Ukraine, which in terms of the sanctions policy is quite critical because Trump won't get in the way of a sanctions policy. Why would he spend the political capital to stop that when one of the only issues in the United States, bipartisan agreement on Republicans and Democrats can agree upon, is their hatred of Putin and Russia and support of Ukraine. So Congress and Senate, very, very strong support for sanctions. So I think we can expect more sanctions. It's just a question of what do the sanctions look like and how do we work that out with the Europeans, which becomes, that's a very big policy problem, by the way. But at least the political problem of getting there, I think we're moving in that direction. Okay, so what about Europe though? So we talked a lot about US, as you saw, of course, with the incursions, the drones flying into Poland. No response to any of this, right? I won't go through everything. You guys obviously followed all this. You guys are very familiar. Denmark, Norway, Polish, Petro-Baltic offshore platform, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The biggest one being the 12-minute incursion into Estonian airspace more recently. Again, just in the last day into Denmark airspace again, more drones. Article 4 consultations came about, so that's positive. They came together at least and recognized we had a problem, we have to do something, and critically having the US say they would support, tough policies like shooting down jets. But it still leaves the question, at the end of the day, why didn't we do anything? Okay? Now I think we all know the answer is that the Western response has been consistently underwhelming and weak over and over and over. However, there's a bit more to the story. Frankly, and that's why, again, I feel a little bit more encouraged by recent statements. You actually do need rules of engagement. This wouldn't have worked out to Europe's, NATO's, the Western world's favor if Poland just acted on its own, decided we see these things coming, or Estonia shoots down the jets and kills a Russian pilot. Russia, of course, what would they do? Claim victim. We didn't enter the airspace, it wasn't our fault. Something happened, there's miscommunication, and then you took out a jet and killed one of our pilots. They would, of course, deny any culpability for this, and then the Western world has to decide, well, what do? We haven't actually talked about this, we haven't figured out what is our response, and then it gives Russia the justification to retaliate if they want. Now, none of that happened, of course, but going forward, there's no excuse, because that's why they are talking. So what will we see now? They have consulted each other. Sweden, Poland, Estonia have made very strong statements about shooting down jets in the future. US saying they would be supportive of that. France, less so. So obviously we have a policy dilemma from Europe. So we will now see what Putin thinks of Europe and what Europe is made of. So what do you think? There will be the next Russian incursion. I think most people in this room believe that. So will Europe respond strongly to the next Russian incursion? I have a feeling I know the answer. I just want to young man. So do you have more faith in Trump or in Europe? That's definitely debate here. Okay, more faith in Trump. Somebody start answering fast. Yeses. Okay. So very negative. Okay. Again, I actually tend to disagree. I think we will see a stronger response. Europe has to do something at this point, and I do think the frontline countries, Denmark, Sweden, Estonia, Poland, likely in the consultations have said they would shoot down a Russian jet or whatever comes into their airspace, and there will have to be a response. But of course, we'll see, and I do most definitely think there will be another incursion. Putin is most definitely incentivized to keep pushing and keep trying to cause problems in transatlantic unity, keep causing problems dissension within NATO itself. So he's highly incentivized. And he also remind Europe, you guys are basically on your own now. Are you ready to embrace all these costs involved, including military costs, potential invasion, etc.? So, again, ignoring US, ignoring Europe then, moving to the primary actors, Russia and Ukraine, how long can each last? Okay, so looking at some of the fundamental issues, just looking at political pressures. They are escalating quite dramatically. This is truly a new era within the oligarchic system, within Russia, what's happened. That's in the last 3.5 years, but particularly in the last year. It's intensifying dramatically. That's good for us, of course. This is Starlink, the former defense transport minister, committed suicide. There's another death earlier this week from the same ministry. Head of the Supreme Court, dying VP of Rosneft, went out the window instead of taking an elevator or stairs, like a lot of these guys recently. More suicides, etc. The point is, the system is moving into a crisis mode. Even started like he was supposed to be protected by his cushion, right? By the Rothschild brothers who were extremely close to Putin, and he wasn't protected. Okay, and that's how the system operated for 20 plus years, and that should be protected under these current conditions. So you have changing rules, you have intensifying pressures. How do you maintain your wealth, your status, your influence? How do you remain protected going forward? All of these guys are now asking those questions. Okay, so how do the new rules develop? In terms of the economy, the GDP has been stagnating really since about the end of 2023, but definitively for about the last year and a half. If you're looking quarter on growth, right? So each quarter is not growing from the quarter before. So the economy and the central bank for Russia just revised down their growth for next year from 2.5% to 1%. And it'll likely be less than 1%, in fact, especially now that they're planning to raise taxes. So budget deficit way beyond the target. They're raising the VAT rate for next year. That's after they raise the corporate tax, personal income tax on the highest income earners in the country. Export revenues down dramatically. Civilian sectors are in decline. Defense sector is driving the growth, but the civilian sectors since the beginning of this year have been in clear decline. Okay? Consumer durables, this is one of the clearest signs. Construction sector declining, that's one of the clearest signs of a coming recession that's happening in Russia. And then consumer durables, discretionary incomes, discretionary spending going down. Purchases of televisions, refrigerators, washing machines, cars, etc., down dramatically. And that's in the first half of this year. It's only going to continue to get worse, particularly when they raise the VAT next year. Another big problem, which is inflationary and huge for Russia, is that industry investment is declining. And the central bank even said that next year investment will contract, okay, fall by a couple of percentage points. It's already likely contracting. Now, this is absolutely critical in terms of economic terms. So this is manufacturing. It's a survey of business sentiment. Anything under 50 means that people are pessimistic and don't expect new orders to be coming. That's been going on for most of this year already. So that's very good. The point here is that you're already seeing demand slowing. So they could rebalance the economy. Demand slows, and then supply slows with it, and then they just have 0-1% growth going forward. The problem is that demand is slowing, fine, but supply of goods is slowing faster. So new housing is down. They've had a very poor harvest this year. Business investment is already in decline. So demand can be slowing, helping bring down inflation, but if supply of products and goods and services across the economy is declining faster, then you still have an inflation problem. Then add to that coming ruble depreciation, which is going to happen later this year and into next year, and add in the VAT. So now they have an inflationary problem going forward. The central banker, Nabulina, admitted this and said, I can't guarantee basically that we're going to keep cutting interest rates going forward because there's too many question marks in the economy. So we'll see how it goes, but everything's moving really in the right direction for Ukraine's purposes. So that's good. Add in the war pressures, of course. Manpower is actually, unfortunately, quite solid. Their recruitment is still strong, but the loss ratio relative to Ukrainian losses has actually improved for Ukraine over the last 2 to 6 months now. So it's actually a little bit better. Severe losses on each side, but the ratio is a little bit better in favor of Ukraine. And then, of course, we'll talk about this on the panel, but the attacks on energy infrastructure, oil refining, percent, all that, that's only going to worsen, of course, going forward, and it's causing considerable problems within Russia. Okay, moving to the Ukraine side of things. Yes, the economy is slowing as discussed, and this is quite problematic because there aren't really any new growth drivers on the horizon. Okay, the defense sector, this is very positive. We are seeing greater investment, but it's still not large enough to drive greater growth across the rest of the economy. Agriculture has been quite weak this year, which of course dominates the Ukrainian economy. So that is problematic. The bigger problem is really the budget issues in terms of financing. There simply is not enough money now that the U.S. has taken itself out of support, financial support, budgetary support for Ukraine. That is a huge problem. We still need another $19 billion for the rest of this year, $65 billion through early 2027. So obviously quite problematic. Where do you get this money from? Europe is struggling on their own with weak growth, with deficits, with this balance of how do we maintain the high social spending we have while trying to increase defense spending as well and supporting Ukraine. It's a huge problem, and this is why we've been saying since 2022, since the summer of 2022, it is inevitable. Europe has to take Russia's foreign exchange reserves. And now we're finally seeing pretty decisive movement in that direction and clear recognition in Europe that that's going to happen. There's really no other alternative. unless Europe wants to lose this war, and then they have a massive problem. I mean, obviously it's a problem for Ukraine, but Europe itself will have extreme problems, existential problems. So that's why it's maybe encouraging. Will Russia's NATO incursions focus minds? And I think, again, it will. I think we are hitting an inflection point here in the war with how the Western world, and particularly European leaders, European societies too. Just anecdotally, I was in Europe earlier this month, and just talking with more people on the ground there, there's much greater awareness about what's happening here compared to, say, a year ago when people were asking questions, is the war still going on, and really crazy questions like that. There's much more awareness now of the war itself within Europe. I was also in the United States, and unfortunately there's not. So, hate to reveal the negative news, but the U.S. is still, quite distant. I'll leave it at that. The Security Guarantees Coalition and the willing, of course, we want to see this. This is important, but frankly, it doesn't really matter if we say we're not going to put any troops in until Putin agrees to a ceasefire. Because why the hell would Putin agree to a ceasefire if he knows that the next day you're going to get 40,000 European troops into the country, which is one of the primary reasons he invaded Ukraine in the first place. So there's nothing to really discuss. This is all fantasy world until the West decides to take the position that Putin doesn't have a veto over any of this. We're doing whatever the hell we want, whenever we want, which I think we will come to that day eventually, but not in the near term. Manpower issues, don't need to discuss this any further. We know that's obviously in a bad place and worsening, unfortunately. And then we saw you step back in the corruption fight with Zelensky's move, and then repealing the bill, and then the protests and everything that happened. I won't go into too much depth, but the problem here, again, thinking about this in terms of a war of attrition, right? While Trump did the Kremlin's work for Putin, right, and supported the regime by inviting him to Alaska, Zelensky unfortunately undermined his own country and destroyed, of course, Ukraine's image internationally, and did the work again of Kremlin propagandists that they've been saying for years. Ukraine is a corrupt place. It's not its own country, et cetera, all this crap. And unfortunately, Zelensky fed into that narrative by doing this. So I think, aside from what actually means with business environment, corruption, transparency, et cetera, the international reputation, it really, unfortunately, again, reinforces to the Kremlin elite, right, the oligarchs there, that Ukraine's on a weak path, and we can continue to fight against them. Okay, so the scenarios, as shown every event, I haven't changed them since the last event, actually. So still very positive on scenario 2. I understand it's not really a victory. I put in quotation marks, but this is some sort of victory if Ukraine can get 80% of its land, retain that, and remain an autonomous, independent, sovereign nation. That's investable also going forward and have peace in the end. So same vision. Scenario 3 and scenario 4, I have changed it. We are seeing an uptick in intensities and escalation, of course, in hostilities. So that raises this. I don't think it's very likely, but it does raise it slightly. The risk of a direct NATO conflict with Russia, and then less likely of a frozen conflict, something more decisive this next year. We'll see maybe really a turning in the war. All right, and we can send the slides to you. So take pictures, of course, but you can email us some of the slides as well. So last polling question: do you think next year we will see a ceasefire? You guys weren't very optimistic on the last 2 questions, so hopefully something changed.
Look at that.
Okay, good. Yeah, we've had 0 in the last almost 3.5 years. So, okay, wow. Anybody want thoughts? Who voted yes? No one will admit it. Please, yes. Oh, you don't have to speak. Anybody want to explain there? I tend to agree, by the way. I mean, for me, the war of attrition and Russia, look at that. Wow. Okay, it switched. Okay. Well, anyhow, I tend to actually agree that I think we will. Russia will want a pause soon enough, I think by, say, middle of next year. Let's see, of course, but it is a war of attrition. The resources, all the political pressures, financial pressures, battlefield pressures. It can't happen, though, of course, unless we see a stabilization of the battlefield on the ground. And we have seen, again, just in this past week, we have seen more encouraging news on the ground in Ukraine's favor. Russia's still advancing, slightly, but we have seen things move in a better direction. This is the attack, the Dobropilia attack, right? Again, very good news in the past week about how Ukraine's really squashed that. So there will be more incursions like this coming. This is kind of the nature of the war nowadays, and how the battle lines are being fought over currently compared to, say, 2 years ago, how things are being fought because of drone warfare. So expect more of these little breakthroughs probably in the next 6 months, 9 months. But again, no strategic breakthrough and no ability to actually capitalize on that for the future. The air battle, again, I'll let the panels go into this more, but a fundamental question. We did a podcast with Mitz Capital, which is the owner of 10 Gorgon. He's one of the speakers here today. And he said very bluntly, he said, in the next 6 months, I think, with the technological competition we have with Russia, we are hitting an inflection point. That one side is going to get enough scale to then tip the balance and sort of seize that strategic opportunity and the potential to win the war. He, of course, believes that would be Ukraine, but it's an interesting idea because we're looking at the battlefield, we're looking at the air fight, we're looking at NATO incursions, etc. Maybe we should just be looking at the technological competition. Understand? Does this actually shift the balance here in the next 6 months? So again, we'll talk about that on the panel here. Western resolve. Will we get a strong response to NATO incursions? I understand the room's not very optimistic. More EU, US sanctions. The room's not very optimistic. Seizing Russia's FX reserves. I didn't ask that question, but I do tend to believe that will happen. I think maybe the room would be more optimistic on that. And then more European purchases of US military equipment, which has already happened. I think we can feel positive about that one. So my answer to all these, frankly, is yes, that we're going to see these in time. It doesn't all happen tomorrow, of course. But in the coming months, I think, hopefully by the time we speak in December, there's a yes to all these questions. Another thing to watch, of course, oil prices, how that will impact Russia. That depends on a number of factors, but importantly, what US, EU do in aligning with sanctions. So the biggest thing here is watch for the next 6 to 9 months. Hopefully, we can see Putin do what authoritarian regimes do all the time historically, is please interfere with the central bank. Putin, for the last 10, 15 years, has been actually very prudent and has been hands-off and has allowed his very competent central banker to operate. And that's one of the reasons they've actually financially gotten through the war in a fairly decent shape. There's been a rising pressure from the business community, from the oligarchs within Russia over the last year, over a year now, because of the high interest rates. We would love to see Putin push on the central bank and do something so stupid as demand much lower interest rates, and then cause a massive inflationary problem in Russia and financial macroeconomic instability. And that's how we get into the war too. So I'm not saying that happens. I'm saying the conditions could be brewing right now. We could be creating those conditions in the coming months. So it's something to definitely watch out for. Okay, so away from the geopolitics. Any questions? Yeah, George.
Thank you, Mark. George Delia, I represent Securities Units. So I have a question about discrepancies. On one side, we're all excited about the fuel shortages on the Russian side. Then we know that EU is discussing how to defrozen assets, right? And we know that Trump is getting frustrated. So what is the intent of Putin to attack NATO? So why does he do it? Does he have no information, or what does he want to achieve? Because what I see is that he just did his own break.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's fundamentally, we always say in the West that, we never understand Moscow, we never understand the Soviet Union or Russia or Putin, and that's true. A lot of times we completely misunderstand them, and so our policies are the wrong policies, and that's been consistent for over 100 years. Moscow, Russia, Putin, they misunderstand us as well all the time too. Putin only acts in terms of force. You have power or you don't, period. So when he sees this happening, he just thinks, I will do a show of force. That's his instinctive, knee-jerk reaction whenever he's going to face pressures, a show of force. Right? That's his instinct, at least. So I think he's just fundamentally misreading the Western response. I think what he thinks is, the West is weak. They're never going to push it back on me. Whereas in reality, the West is just distracted and not really paying attention, particularly the United States. This is how you can focus minds, though. If you actually present a legitimate threat, particularly to Europe here, that's how you can get a reaction, finally, from a scared European population that now knows it's on its own without strong U.S. support that they used to enjoy for 80 years. So I think fundamentally it's a misreading by him of how the West would actually react to his incursions. But then also, more kind of strategically, the way he sees it is, you guys keep attacking my energy infrastructure domestically here, I need to respond in some way to you guys in the West. And so he does something. And again, to remind Europeans, you guys are basically on your own. You guys he doesn't respect Europe, of course, in the defense and security environment in Europe at all. So he's going to really put pressure on them and see, are you guys ready to embrace these costs? That I'm going to increase these costs on you? You already have to increase the financial cost to help Ukraine. Trump isn't going to be helping you out as much anymore. Now I'm going to increase the military and defense costs for you. Are you guys all ready to actually do that? And so I think it's a miscalculation, but I think that's what he's thinking, how it's needed. Okay. All right. So quickly to the economy then, in terms of forecasts, we have, unfortunately, as mentioned, lowered our forecasts, as has the central bank. As the Ministry of Economy here. H1 was quite weak. We should see an improvement in the second half of the year, but the agriculture sector in particular was relatively weak. So 2.3% growth for this year. It's not written here because we don't forecast the euro, but a big problem for companies and moving into next year is specifically the rate of the hryvnia against the euro. The euro is very strong and getting stronger, particularly amongst Trump's trade wars and his economic policies. That's problematic, of course, considering how much Ukraine trades with not just in the euro, but zloty and other European currencies, which are also strengthening. So that's problematic, but the business sentiment has clearly shifted, and I shouldn't say shifted, but has weakened and has moderated. And these are supposed to be stronger. The summer months are usually stronger, seasonally speaking, compared to other quarters. And we didn't see actually much economic strength this summer, unfortunately. Inflation was obviously very high. But generally kind of sort of manageable, I could say. Stagnating demand, as these are all quotes from executives in recent weeks. There are no drivers of growth. I can't see how 2026 can be stronger than 2025. But that said, all these companies say, headquarters remains entirely supportive. So we do have that going for us. In terms of focus, as one of our funnier clients has said, you can't focus on Trump or geopolitics or any of this stuff. It's a roller coaster. You won't be able to sleep at night. I just focus on my business. We execute and we succeed in the market. So we leave it at that. We would give ourselves unnecessary headaches if we kept focusing on stuff we can't control. The rising cost, this is a problem, of course, but the euro is really problematic. Depends on your business, how, of course, reliant you are on the euro, but that is something to be paying attention to for next year, because that'll be a problem throughout all of next year going forward. And then the labor market. Actually, we heard from, this has been the biggest problem for about the last 2 years now. Every conversation revolves around the labor market. But we did hear over the last 3-6 months, companies say that they thought it might actually be worse than it is. So we're expecting more production declines. For example, you can see polling from Q2, our labor shortages forcing business to stop expansion or discontinue services. Vast majority, almost 80%, saying no. Okay. If you asked me this question a year ago, I would have thought by this time now we would have seen much higher rates. So that's actually relatively positive. Fewer companies are, basically no one's reducing headcount either, even in this period of relatively weak demand. So that's positive, and a lot of companies are hiring. And then local teams, right, they do continue to feel a sense of urgency. And they're trying to convince corporate, give us more support, right? We don't want to get behind the competition. So that's also very positive news, of course. And then this has nothing to do with anything other than I'm just a proud father, and there's a lot of people in the room who know me and asked about my little guy, Theodore Tedushka. So that's him, it's from last week, and this is his F. Putin face. Any questions, not about my family, but other stuff about my family too.
What about Moldovan election next week?
Oh, Moldova.
Yeah, about Moldova's election, because it's our closest neighbor, and we heard some voices that we can lose Moldovans as our ally because they're about to switch their allegiance with Russians, like pro-Russian narratives. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's possible this has been a problem for 20 years, but I still think the general trajectory of Moldova continues to be Western. So even if this election is lost currently, I still think I mean, that'd be terrible timing, but longer term, 5 years, 10 years from now, where is the country? I still tend to think continuing further Western oriented. And I mean, do you think they're going to lose elections? Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's 50-50. But I mean, the bigger problem is that if we talked about this 5 years ago, we would have thought we'd be in a better place with Moldova by now, right? So, yeah, at the moment. But I still tend to think generationally, right? So I agree, it's 50-50. I think long term, we're in a good position. At the moment, we're not. Okay. And then just quickly, for the podcast that I mentioned as well, Mint's Capital, as mentioned, those are the more recent podcasts that we did, and UBN subscription. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so right now we're gonna have Evgen from the L7. So as I said previously, we changed the schedule a little bit. So now Evgen from L7 will give you an introduction to the equipment these guys are actually producing. We all talk about the armed forces of Ukraine. We're talking about different equipment that is being produced, the equipment that is used by Ukrainian armed forces. This is really important. How about to prepare our soldiers to defend our skies? And this is relates to our discussion. And in a few words, since 2019, so L17 has been developing combat simulation systems integrated into a unified ecosystem called UNITS to support the training of military units. So please welcome Evgen.
Hi everyone. So as you mentioned, my name is Evgen. I'm working in a company L7 industry. So let me explain
A clicker. Sorry.
So I present our company. We are developing and product training simulators. So let me explain you about some information about our company. So we start this type of business in 2019. And in 2022, we had only 6 type of weapon. If we're talking about these days, we have more than 60 type of weapon simulators. It's a full range of Ukrainian army shotguns, rifle, also air defense. So we're working with all Ukrainian army parts. You can see only small part of this. Also, a couple words about our company. We have training center. It's a kind of showroom where you can see our weapons and so on. And it's already trained more than 70,000 of Ukrainian soldiers fully for free. We cooperate with Ukrainian army very close. We are not developing something new, for example, and then go to army. It's in different direction. So Ukrainian army come to us and say, okay, we've got this new type of weapon, and you need to create this simulator. And we are a full-cycle company without outsource. So we have our R&D team, our software team, and we can develop this type of simulators very fast. I will explain about this information about this sample a little bit later. So right now we are talking about only about air defense weapon. So how it looks like? It's based on VR technology, and it works not like a separate weapon. On our stand you can see, for example, Browning, but how it looks like air defense in Ukraine. It's a mobile fire group. It's kind of, for example, pickup air car with a Browning, with a radar information command, and also rocket system like a Stinger, like a Perun, and other stuff. From August 2025 this year, Ukrainian army also started to use interceptor drones. You know about it. So we created these simulators within 2 months, and next month in October we will provide it to Ukrainian army. We also have good communication with some of embassy. I cannot say it exact with whom, but anyway, we had exact contract from government G2B business. G2B to provide our weapons and our equipment to Ukrainian army. So we very well experienced company in this way. So as I told you, it's not about separate weapons like a Browning, rocket system, interceptor drones. It works together like a group, and it's story about communication within team. And you across the Kiev, you can see a lot of such kind of mobile fire group. And for Kiev region, for north of Ukraine, it's everything equipped by our training systems. So you can see the list of air defense equipment, like guns, all stuff that the Ukrainian army are using it. So we have it in our portfolio. So after this presentation, you can come to us and we'll show you a sample of our equipment. And you're welcome. So thank you for your help, for your support, and together we will win this evil year. And Slava Ukraini.
Thank you again. So, again, we changed our schedule a little bit. Right now, we're going to have a break, coffee, some food. Also, don't forget to use the equipment that Evgen and his team already fully set up for you. Trust me, it's going to be exciting. We've tried it not even once. So, and we'll get back to our first and second panel in about 30 minutes. We'll see you later. Thank you. I would like to welcome Roman Sluzhik. He's a former investment banker at JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank. Roman is the founder of the private equity fund Resist.ua. He's co-invests in military tech companies that not only test but already use technology to fight the enemy. Please welcome Roman. Our second speaker, Roman Tkachenko. He is the co-founder and business development director at TenCore. TenCore manufactures modular unmanned ground vehicles already tested and currently used by Ukrainian armed forces at the front lines. His team already works with global corporations who are interested in the equipment. And the third speaker, Dmitry Vasyukov. He is the head of supply at Ventus. Ventus massively produces electronic warfare equipment, anti-drone systems, jamming equipment, and many other electronic warfare equipment. So, Ventus equipment is already produced by 1,000 units and is currently used at the front lines effectively. Please welcome our speaker. We showing you latest clip. I'm glad I have assistants here. They came all the way from the US. You see, I have such a great help. All right, Mark.
Great. Guys, I will start at the opinion of all of you with the question I asked in the presentation about being at an inflection point. Right, so that was Mid's Capital. Roman, both of you. That was their view. In the next 6 months, we'll see this technological innovation, one side of it a strategic advantage, perhaps. So let's start there. I mean, we'll talk about numerous topics, of course, but have we reached an inflection point, people believe, in terms of the technological innovation and where things are going here in the coming months? So, whoever would like to start, feel free.
Hey to everyone. Maybe I would like to start with that the half year we have some new game changers. And actually, in my personal opinion, we have the biggest challenge right now and actually the problem of scale. How fast we could adapt our technology and actually the products to counter the game changer which enemy has. As an example, the last change we have, it's optical fiber drone, right? So beforehand, we used quite a lot jammers, right, from our big friend from Quertus. And right now we have this new game changer with the name of optical fiber drone, and we need to think over. So actually, I fully agree that in the half a year, maybe we will have a new game changer, and we need to adapt all our industry. Actually, the way how we are performing the fight on the front line, in the in the air, close to the Kiev as well, and as faster we could adapt, as more counter solution we could offer, as we will get like the better position in the fight. So actually, you're right. Each half in a year, in my personal understanding, it's not only in the upcoming 6 months. All time we have to be faster, and we have to be faster in adaptation in the scaling. That's actually my personal point of view. That's half in a year. It's our target.
But it seems like every half year. It's
Yeah.
not just this.
No.
Understood.
It's not like, half an year we have to run and then we have to relax. No, it's not working so.
Yeah, I'm not very optimistic that either side will get a massive kind of breakthrough in the 6 months. If you ask me, like a little longer horizon, probably, because how are we going to liberate the territory? Like, we're not going to liberate it with Zerg rushes, like how Russia does it. It is going to be like, if we take like 20 square kilometers, it's going to be like thousands of land drones covered by air drones that will be able to protect airspace from Russian FPVs, and only this is how we're going to liberate it. Like, is this robot army ready? Not yet. But will it be ready at some point? I'm pretty sure it will be, and this is why we're working on this, whatever. So, so I am not as optimistic that we will be able. I mean, we're doing limited these robot offensives and some places testing the stuff out, but I don't think we're going to be ready. But maybe by next summer, if it still continues. The main problem for us will be if we're actually successful. If we deploy this robot army and we push back Russia 50, 100 kilometers, that's my general bet, that's when Trump will force us to actually sign the peace agreement. And that's going to be very unfortunate.
Robot army, when do you see this happen?
I see it, early signs of it, we will see next year. Limited things. We already had in Khartia, I think there was the article, army sort of war, robot war, how they actually used all kind of automated land drones and air drones to actually do an offensive. It was a very limited scale, but I think we're going to get to a massive scale, and I think we're going to get there before Russians. They will adapt, but because they have so much bio garbage that they're throwing at us, they don't need to worry about people. Whereas we're trying to do things where we save people. So I think we will be the first in the world to do this, and I think if the war continues next year, we will see this.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to this great event, and I want to highlight that if the first and second war it was a war of engine, now as you can see that it's a war of drone. And of course, everybody and vehicles and military and civil infrastructure should be protected against of enemy drones, against of all drones, because we have a lot of drones. We have spy drones, bomber drones, FPV drones, and various all drones which cost a few $1,000 could totally destroy your gas oil station, could destroy any military vehicles, could kill and murder a lot of people, and of course infrastructure should be protected, otherwise your losses could be extremely high. And first of all, people should be protected, because it's a really key idea. If a lot of soldiers, a lot of people will be dying, it'll make a sense to do something. So protection is really important and really a critical point for this war and for future war as well.
Okay, so let's get to the real case scenario. We understand that the Russian attacks have escalated in the last 1.5 years. In the last 6 months, we see that we've never seen 600, 700, 800 drones and rockets attacking Ukraine, and this is what we've seen in 2025. And we see that Russia has no problems producing more and more drones. So what next? So we right now is end of September. So the winter is coming. Okay, we understand that approximately 65 or 70% of energy production facilities have been destroyed. Okay, so every time, every fall, we are worried about how we're going to be able to get through the winter. So what happened next? Right now, we understand there's massive drone attacks. How we can protect our cities? What do we have at the moment in terms of the latest developments? Whoever can start first.
So I can start from very beginning for better speech. Quantity of drones at current moment is not a question at all for electronic warfare. A key important question is the quality of these drones, because the Russians move so fast, and of course we shoot faster and we should run faster and faster again of them. And what they do, they use new drones which use not standard connection between drone and operator. And manufacturer of electronic warfare systems should create multiple diapason drones, which allows multiple diapason electronic warfare, which could create drone protection against your position, for instance, few hundred meters, and against infrastructure. And next step is increasing our electronic detection and electronic intelligence to be able to see how many drones around you, from which direction they could attack you, and to be able to understand how many drones, which connection do they use against you, and how to protect them. First way it's escape, second way it's a jam them, and maybe third way would be inform everybody around you about incoming difficulties or incoming threat.
Okay. Metro has a really unique information. We're gonna get back to Metro. So
we have a corner of Romans. So you know that I like the idea of the robot fight. Actually, it's like the robots have to destroy the robots, and actually the drones has to protect our air from the drones. And actually each of the scale, right? So we are on the level when we need to count, like each hryvnia, each dollar. So it means that the counter measure for the Shahed or Gerbera, it should be cost effective. And it should be like, scalable, that we actually, it's a program of the President Zelensky, it's a wall of drone, right? So everybody heard it, I guess. So it means that we have to prepare the wall of drones. Doesn't matter, is it land plus air or land plus air plus jamming, doesn't matter. So actually this line has to protect our cities, actually our border, from the Shaheds and similar things in a cost-effective way. What does it mean? It means that it's not like the Poland destroy a few of the Gerberas with a cost 20k, with missiles with 1.2 million, right? So we don't have so much money. It's our dreams that we have such money, but we don't have. So we are in reality, then we need to be smarter. So that's why we have that guy staying over there. We are developing different interceptors with a cost like 2K, 2,000, 3,000, as I know. And that's what we are trying to realize today, how to use all of the possible devices, units to destroy the Shaheds and everything. But again, we are limited in the budget and in the time. So if we have more money, we could go faster. We don't have money, so that's why we just trying to, let's say, to understand how we could destroy as much as we can with the limited money, with the limited budget. That's, to be very fair, what I see where we are. So we have already solutions how to not have so much Patriots, we don't have so much NASAMS, so we have our own drones, and we could, deliver them in thousands. And for this we need operators, and the second thing, the budget, money to make this wall of protection. That's my personal point of view.
What is the money, for example, where is the money coming from? Is there any money coming from the government? Is there any money coming from the Western partners? So where is the money coming from?
I'm not receiving this money, I don't know.
is coming from the government. Like basically the drones that can shoot down Shaheeds, government buys everything. People have problems scaling up production. So it's basically like right now it's not the money that is limited. Like for the effective drones that you see actually shooting down these Shaheeds, like on this floor drones, the money is coming. Like there's just no limitation. But I'll tell you, I'd rather answer you by a anecdote. First, I will make a point that I think this winter is going to be brutal. Probably like the most brutal winter of the war, because we started to hurt Russia finally, and we're gonna hurt them a lot more. I'm sure. If there's one prediction I will make is that we will see blackouts, electricity blackouts in Moscow this year. It's one prediction I will make, right? But it's gonna be absolutely brutal here. Like a lot of people will die. Civilians like us, but. Still, if you compare to what Britain endured, like just 1940, just in London, 20,000 civilians died, right? So for us in Kiev, okay, maybe we have like it reached a couple thousand, but it's nowhere near, what Britain endured and the one in the end. But I just want to give you an anecdote of, how this is actually created. Like, so basically, Brave One. I've been to all of Brave One's investor days where these kids show off like the things that they do. And there's a kid that shows up there and says, I'm trying to create a cheap rocket to shoot down Shaheeds. Right? He's saying like, I want to create a sub $10,000 rocket to shoot down Shaheeds. And he shows a video of like, some engine just burning somewhere. He doesn't have anything. So I tell my analyst to say, like, set up a meeting. So I set up a meeting, we go talk, I see how they're burning the solid fuel. I said, how did you create solid fuel? He said, honestly, I just took $200,000 that I had and I hired some students, like rocket the chemist guys, and we started doing it. And all of professors, all of businessmen I spoke to said, it's impossible to create this like really industrial grade solid fuel. And he said, like we tried 60 different combinations, it didn't work. And then it started burning. And then these professors of these kids, they came in and they started giving us advice and started burning. And, I said, my biggest question to you is like, where did you get at 20 years old for $100,000? I'm 31. I said, it doesn't change my question. He said, I'm an IT guy. I used to make good money before the war. He invested everything he had into this project. I gave him money, and I was lucky that he came to me after already speaking to some Western funds. Like he came home to Shell. He said, these guys are asking me about patents, about taking this IP to an Estonian company, about accounting. He said, I'm in a garage in Bucha where Russian tanks used to stand, and I'm just brewing solid fuel. I don't have any of this paperwork. And I said, look, we're a Ukrainian fund. If we agree on the valuation, we will shake hands and the money will be in your account in a week, and then we'll basically deal with all the paperwork. And, now, the government is trying to get kids like this, to the next level. Now there's about maybe like 10 teams like his now. Like when we started, he was probably one of 3. Now there's like 10. And Brave One is throwing money at them, and there's zero corruption there. Like he's just applied for a €2 million like grant, and I'm thinking he will get it. Right, like so. Basically, I'm just saying, like, where is this money coming from? Like they are encouraging. It's like this. I sent you a video. It's not possible to put that video would be just absolutely amazing. He's testing right now, like 5, 10, or like these rockets. He creates them by himself, completely test them like 5, 10 a week. And working on a head for this, and Brave One has actually purchased some sticker heads and is giving them to kids like this, like to see if they can fit it on their rockets and actually can hit the head. So what I'm saying is, in terms of how we're going to defend it. Obviously, it is going to be tough. I don't think we'll have all these technologies ready for this particular winter, but I think next winter we will be ready. And then when you think about the future and the scary world we live in, why these massive cheap rockets will be like, imagine like after the war, the Bad Korea, this concentration camp. Everybody will start making Shaheeds there, right? And preparing to attack Seoul. And when you sit in Seoul, which is very close, it's not even hundreds of kilometers which we have to shoot down. They have like maybe 50 kilometers to shoot down the Shaheeds. When you're planning for defense of Seoul, it's not going to be 1,000 drones a day you have to worry about. It's going to be like 50,000 an hour or 100,000 an hour of these Shaheeds coming in from Bad Korea into Seoul. And like how many missiles and how many of these drones will you need to shoot down 50,000 shaheeds in 1 hour, right? So what I'm saying is like the world is changing, and obviously the technologies that we're developing here today will be used all over the world. Yes.
So just getting on the quantity point, I was encouraged to hear you said that you're not so worried about that. I mean, we're all worried, of course, 1,000 drones a night. How do we defend against this? Of course. Now, we don't know the intricacies of, well, does it matter if you're defending against 10 drones or 10,000? So I'm encouraged to hear what you said.
Quantity is not important, but important is quality of this drone, because they use absolutely different type of drones, which are using absolutely different type of connection, and are being navigated and controlled by the drones. So all depend of quality I mentioned before. Yeah, because if it will be 1,000 drones use only one dedicated channel of communication, it's not a question of control. But if they use 20 absolutely different type of drones, we should know this type of contact before attack. To be able to predict.
I have a question. Remember, we had a conversation which was truly amazing. How you guys started the first equipment you produced, and how over the time it evolved and changed. So how you guys started with electronic warfare? The first equipment you produced, you said you were using only one city.
Band.
The band. Yeah. Can you start from that and tell us what Russia did in response, what you did in response a few months later, and how it developed over the time, please?
It's a very good question, because war is a time of progress, and from the very beginning of the war, Russian forces normally they used standard drones and very simple and quite cheap drones using commercial band 940, 850 megahertz, and it was really predictable and very easy. So we had to create a German system use exactly this band. And it was enough to stop 90% of drones. But Russian soldiers see that current drones are not useful, and they need to do something new. And
so one second, your system. So you were able to identify the drones.
We detected that 95%
For example,
drones.
is the 50 drones flying towards
one channel for contact, for communication between operator and drone, and that was clear. And we did German system against of exactly this type of drones.
Okay.
After that, Russia see, okay, let's change.
How the system works? Because people heard the jamming, what actually is jamming is doing. So the drone is flying.
That's a big situation.
The real case scenario. The drone is flying.
The drone is flying, and some soldier operates this drone by a remote control. They use band 900 megahertz.
Украинская частота. Что где частота?
And German system should make noise exactly on this band. This allows us to make a drone cover few hundred meters. It was enough to protect your position, to protect your vehicles, or protect any place. But noticing this, Russian army decided, okay, let's change band. Let's fall down, or let's up, rise up connection. And they start to use new channels for controlling these drones. They start to use navigation, they start to use video contact. And companies which create systems to protect Ukrainians, again, we start to do multiple, how to say it, multiple channels. So in one device you could find out few channels, and our protection could be wider. It was a good solution, but after that, what they did Russian, they noticed that, okay, let's increase our signal, let's set up transmitters, let's use new type of drones. And was company made a step to protect it. Last solution from Russia was using opto-lockno system, optical fiber, yes, exactly. Or maybe what they else did.
Yeah, so right now we are, I just add, so right now we have AI everywhere, and I guess, year ago, maybe so we had this last mile targeting, when the drone is flying and the operator could hold the target. And after that, the drone is automatically following the target and striking.
So basically, they disconnect from the drone. So, no, not actually that. So previously, the drones were flying.
Yeah.
So then,
System generates signal
Yeah.
that on using this band and just to interrupt connection between
So basically,
drone
when
and
the drone-
operator, and drone fall down or start run around the place because contact between operator and drone was lost.
so this is your system jams that signal.
Exactly, yeah.
So the guy who operates the drone and so they get disconnected and drone basically flying and falls down. So then they started adapting their system in order to
Exactly, yeah. And next step is what we need to detect how many drones and which exactly channel of contact do they use. After that, we create a new system which will be give us possibility to detect all drones, and we can see all drones around you on distance up to 30 kilometers, and even more. We are available to see quantity of drones. We are able to see channel and band of this drone used for communication for the operator. We are able to see location and direction of these drones, and this will allow us to do a prevention. And a new modern smart system of jamming can issue signal exactly on this dedicated bands. For instance, operator of a detection system notices that 5 drones come from north-northwest with a distance 20 kilometers. And these drones use 300 megahertz, and new modern smart system available generate signal exactly on that 300 megahertz. We don't need to create a lot of signals. We don't need to create wide band. We create exactly dedicated.
to jam it.
Exactly dedicated the channel to jam exactly these drones in these directions.
So basically, your system shows that from starting like 20-kilometer distance, there's 50 drones approaching. So your system identifies the how many drones from which direction they're flying and what channel they're using. I would say. So you pass this information to the armed forces of Ukraine or our team, and they check those drones. Okay.
This team could switch on drones. Even this operator of detection and jamming system could stay even in Kiev. They no need to stay next to the system. It will be available using it by remote control. You need internet only.
Okay. Russians are not stupid, so they see we can do that. What they do next?
It will be next step.
Let me actually kind of continue. I mean, look, actually, even though I don't kind of agree with like Zelensky or whatever like him, but what he said at UN, he gave a great speech a couple of days ago. He said, it's unfortunate, that we have to defend ourselves and we have to protect ourselves from these barbarians, and we have to invent these new ways of killing people. He said, I wish 21st century was different, but it shows that only by arming yourself, you can actually protect your kind of citizens and protect your way of life. Because, look, I feel like I'm living in this country, like what we're checking, like sci-fi book already, and where this is going to be in a few years, like we're going to have micro drones the size of like bees killing people. Like, we cannot even imagine like what it's going to be like. And just like people before the First World War, they saw wars for hundreds of years, people just shooting rifles at each other. They couldn't imagine tanks or machine guns, like in planes especially. Like the fact that what we're seeing, like what's going to happen in the future, like whether there's going to be conventions limiting this type of drone warfare. This is for the future to decide. But basically, what I'm saying is like it's very hard to say like where it's gonna evolve, like even in a year, let alone like 5 years. But and this is why I think a lot of you are here today. I'm just saying that that's why this Ukrainian Miltech that is emerging, and companies like Vertus is actually the best company in Ukraine. This electronic warfare stuff. Amazing feedback from the guys in the front. Tankor is also up there. The fact that guys like this have emerged, out of this war, and my goal is guy who's investing money in companies like this, is to make sure that these are the sort of guys that run the country in the future, right? So we replaced these like oligarchs who stole assets in the 90s and who created this bad reputation of corruption and lawlessness for Ukraine, that guys like this, the next generation, they are going to be like running companies that will be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're going to be taking Western investment, and these are the guys that will change the future of this country. That's our goal.
You know, it's interesting. I just had a comment in UBN the other day, that look, Ukraine should not be the country who is seeking to be taken into the NATO. I feel like Ukraine, with all the defense capabilities in a couple of years, will organize its own alliance and will decide who to take in or not, because it seems like with all these developments, seems like, and this is something that's going to be extremely interesting, because why? Like with all the technology, and this is what Roman just told me. Do you remember there was a huge explosion in Zhytomyr? There was, I think, some of our guys were doing something in the garage. I think it's something that was, I swear to God, because my half of the family in Kiev, half of the family in Zhytomyr, when it was passing by, Jesus Christ, it was like, I don't know, a couple of hectares was like erased from the earth. And when Roman said it, was like, I was imagining like when Western partners approach these guys, hey, do you have the pen? And these guys are showing this just like the coal in the stove. It's just like, let me just cook that whatever I need to cook it. Let's talk about that later. And it's truly amazing, because you're right. The new generation, they think totally differently. The new generation actually cares about this country. They want to defend this country. And sometimes it's hard to believe that 22-year-old kid approaches you and can tell you, look, I can create this rocket. And the professor was like, no, you cannot. As long as this guy doesn't listen to those professors, and this is what we've seen. And I think a lot of people can't disagree with me, but with the latest development, and we speak with several funds who invest heavily in military technology in Ukraine. They say, look, if we will be able to repel Russians another year and a half with all the technology, the rockets, the drones we produce, Russia is going to be in a very bad position.
Yeah, I just want to add, very quickly to this. First of all, it was a girl actually who created, the solar rocket fuel. He hired a chemist girl who just graduated from university, and she said, "Look, if you didn't hire me, there were no jobs for rocket chemists. I was about to go work at McDonald's." She created this actual fuel for him. But I just want to say that, look, I mean, in terms of this kind of like outlook, also on the front lines of this is the first time we have a situation in 30 years in Ukraine when there are funds coming in saying, we want to deploy 100 million capital, we want to deploy 200 million of capital into Ukrainian military. Because smart money sees, that, if you try to predict who are going to be the top kind of defense countries in the world, most defense capabilities in 5 to 10 years. If you try to predict top 5 countries, it's very likely that Ukraine is going to be one of them. Unfortunately, we ended up there. So it's the first time we're seeing this wall of money coming into a particular sector of Ukraine, even during the war. And it's our job to make sure that we actually develop the sector differently from how Ukraine was developed previously. Letting investors make money, not during the war, but after the war, allowing them to make money on exits, through experts, whatever. And if this sector takes a couple billion and actually allows investors to make money, this is going to change the image of Ukraine. And we will be able to showcase that we can absorb 50, 100 billion of private capital that we will need for reconstruction, and show that it's okay to invest. Because when you were investing with guys who stole everything in the 90s, like Akhmetov, like Firtash, Kolomoisky, whatever, and then they stole your money too, like what do you expect? You're investing with crooks. Like if you're investing with the new generation of guys like who are just completely built differently, who are building up their things Ukrainians, like honestly, and whose comrades are dying, to help like defend them. These guys, it will, you say like, oh, legal system is corrupt, whatever. It's only corrupt because these corrupt oligarchs were using these legal systems to screw people over. If the investors, the owners don't screw you, you never touch the the legal system. They will just pay you your money back, right? And this is what I hope to basically achieve here, is that by basically using the example of this Miltech industry and success of it to actually then build a prosperous Ukraine.
Great. Any questions?
Thank you. Your admin, directions. My question would be about the opening the military export market. How would it streamline our military tech and advancement on the battlefield? And the second part of the question, what are the threats of exporting newest weapons and possibility of Russians receiving them, like reverse engineering? Thank you.
I can start. Look, everything that goes to the front, Russians will get, right? So it's not a problem that they will get it through exports. They will get it anyway. Personally, I'll be the outlier here. I don't see it that much of this, because if you're doing unique stuff within Ukraine, like all of the stuff will be bought. If you're in a highly competitive market, like trying to produce these like FPV drones, whatever, yes, there's not going to be enough money in the world to buy everything that Ukraine can produce. So it's absolutely okay that there's going to be some losers there. We, for example, don't invest in this FPV industry because it's similar to how car industry in America in 1905. In America, there were 1,500 car companies. In 10 years, there was only maybe 50, right? So right now, everybody in their garage tries to create FPV drones, and that's just not sustainable. So when people are complaining, I built this factory to produce FPV drones and the government is not buying, but let me export. I think that if the exports is open, they'll find that they won't be able to export either, right? So, but obviously, yes, there are some technologies that need to be exported. So, I am personally, in terms of investment, I am not worried about this at all, because the situation will normalize. But I think that the reason why the situation is like it is because there's a universe of companies that do really well selling to the government right now, and then there's going to be a universe of companies that will do really well exporting. And obviously these universes intersect, but they're not identical. And I think the incumbents that know how to sell to the government are not very happy about growing the competition for them by allowing the exports. I think that's one of the main reasons.
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
So regarding export Ukrainian devices and technology, I want to say to you that at current moment it's a very difficult story. So it's impossible to say Ukrainian development and the Ukrainian system, Ukrainian unique technologies and devices out of Ukraine, because there is no possibility now. There is no clear rule of there is no clear rule of game for export. It's impossible, roughly. But it would be great to sell some items out of Ukraine, because it's possibility to bring funds to Ukraine, to bring a new income of money. It's a possibility to pay more taxes for manufacturer, involve more employee for your facility for your manufacturing, and pay, and will be able to sell more and more to Ukrainian defense forces. But at current moment, there is no clear rules for selling, especially for outcomes.
Maybe I will be a bad guy, but I will tell you that the export is working today. So, everywhere it's like a trend. So what is can be popular in the media? So I will push to this. Actually, it's important. For us as a Tankor, it's quite important topic. But as a country, actually everywhere in any of the country, it's a political decision to make exports or not. Even the Patriots, any missiles, it's like a political decision if you're talking about the defense sector. As to the export which is running today, historically Ukraine make a service of different Soviet type of the military equipment. Until today, I guess each day we have signed exports for some parts for the defense sector for the old equipment. If they're talking for the, Quartus right know-how, the Tankor know-how, all our friends, I guess it's for us it's a crucial point to have not so big but limited number of the exports. So we fully committed with the Ukraine that all our products need to be on the front line. and we fully support this. But at the end, we fully understand that the market of the unmanned system worldwide is growing. But not growing, it's like making right now. And we, as leaders in the Ukraine, could be the leaders in the world. It's actually like we could make this market, and then we will be sustainable over there. And actually, that's it will help us to get the money, because in case we have only one customer, ask all the investors how they will look to us in case we have only one customer. So we are not sustainable, and we are like actually you will not use multiplicators, right? So you will use other thing. So actually, for us it's very important, but it's a very difficult question how to make it not personally as a Ukraine as a country, as an example, as a tanker as a company, but as a system. You know how the system should work in a fair way. So we are fully agreed that the export needed in very limited number, but we don't know how to make it real, openly speaking.
Vladimir?
Volodymyr Monastirski, International Law Firm Dentons. Today we are experiencing a boom of build-tech business. If we go back into the history of Ukraine, just Ukraine, like 20 years ago, we have been experiencing the boom of agriculture business. Only lazy did not want to invest in agriculture. Only lazy agricultural company did not want to go IPO or get some financing, etc. 20 years from now, 20 years after, we see that only probably one or two companies are still are still listed. So we see that it was really a bubble. And I have 3 questions for each of you, and it would be, for me at least, it would be very interesting to hear your responses, because, for example, SIS2A, you are providing finances, Terracore, your UGP platforms can be used for civil and military purposes, and Quartus probably you are focused on military. So the first question is, do you recognize that Miltech is a bulk? Do you have the understanding how big the bulk is? Like 80%, maybe 99%? And the third question, do you know what you will be doing if the bulk blows up? Thank you.
Look, this is, if you read, the best book on financial bubbles I read by recommendation of my professors in New York. The book is by John Kenneth Galbraith, Short History of Financial Euphoria. I highly recommend it. He analyzes all the bubbles from like South Sea bubble, the 1700s to whatever. And basically bubbles happen when there's financial innovation, technological innovation, or both are combined. Then it's just crazy bubble, like the derivatives bubble. And I was a trader at JP Morgan during 2008, crisis. In '99, I was an IT guy in New York. I saw the internet startup bubble. So this is the first sector-specific bubble, this little Miltech kind of sector-specific bubble that's coming to Ukraine, because that agri bubble wasn't real, because that money was just being thrown at every country. And every country in the world was receiving this crazy money from 2005 to 2008. It was just massive wall of money coming to all emerging markets. And it's just in Ukraine, the only sector that could really absorb that bubble, that money, was the agri sector, because all the manufacturing and all the other stuff was captured by the likes of Kolomoisky and Akhmetov. Here, we have a different situation. This is a technological bubble because the money is coming in the hope that this Ukrainian military technology will kind of change the world. In terms of where we are on the size of this bubble, I would say we're in the first 20%. We're not even in the first 50%. We're in the first 20%. I think it will last 3 to 5 years from here. Obviously, it will collapse. Like there's going to be billion-dollar companies that sell really well to the government, whatever, and then it'll turn out that there was a lot of corruption, and they will go down to zero. So there's going to be companies on which investors will make money, and it will tarnish some image of Ukraine. But ultimately, there will be companies that will remain. There will be like billion-dollar companies that will be honest, that will have Lockheed Martin, Raytheon as partners, like just like Google. and Amazon emerged from the internet bubble, like we will have these companies. So basically, yes, it's a bubble, but it's a very, very early stage, and we're not at the like crazy kind of money stage. That will come in 2-3 years time.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
So personally, me, I do not believe that it's a bubble at all, because we are quite cost effective. All our solutions working on the front line, they are very competitive to the actually all the technology are using in the NATO. And if you compare the budgets, as example, till today, the Bundeswehr, as I know, they are still purchasing the armored vehicle for providing logistics on the front line. In our case, I don't know, is anyone here saw the video when the big machines are supplying, I don't know, the water or something else to the front line. So it's already a dream. And actually, it's completely the same as the evacuation process. All the doctrine what the NATO has, it's quite old. It's based on the, I don't know, Afghanistan, Iraq, but not actually for the enemy like Russia is. So that's why they have to adapt. And to adapt faster, they need us. It means that all our industry, defense industry, is not a bubble because we have a huge competence. We have lessons learned, as Europe would like to tell. And actually, we only one country who can replace the Chinese supply chain. So today, the China is not is not a reliable partner, and only Ukraine could be a possible country who could replace the supply chain from China to be cost effective, to be fast. And we know how to make production even with the alarms and as we are the targets. As to the dual use, from the tanker point, so we have several tracks in the dual use for agricultural, for actually to fight with the fire. But very open, we are concentrated on the projects, and we are allocating all the biggest budgets to the defense. Because actually, if we do not win the war, it doesn't matter how much agricultural drones we have, So that's why our main priority for sure is defense sector. So we need to help our guys. And the second thing, yes, we have projects right now ongoing with different partners from the world with civil use projects, but it's not our key priority.
And I am fully agree with the previous speakers that this market is not like a bubble, because anyway, Ukraine wins tomorrow, and all these new Ukrainian developments will be useful for future, because anyway, borders should be protected, civil infrastructure should be protected, drones will be used for border guard. Anyway, it will be used, and Ukrainian experience will be shared to neighbors, to Ukrainian countries which are friends for us. And of course, for instance, the drones will be used for agriculture sector. Detections will be used if drones are being used in agriculture runs well. So all this technology will be shared, will be adapted for new civil life. So I am fully agree that it's not a bubble, it's a possibility for growth. And unique Ukrainian experience in this sector should be used for future and should be exported, because Ukraine now is a forwarder in the European Union, especially in military system, because nobody had such experience like Ukraine.
Yeah, let's not forget Russia and Belarus doesn't go anywhere.
Adam Dixon. My question is particularly for Dmitry Vasyukov, but please anybody else comment too. Two questions. One is how you envisage the evolution of command and control of drones, and secondly, if there is any information about the current guidance targeting systems, meaning moving away from in an electronic warfare, very dense environment, towards artificial intelligence and optic fiber, since those two systems are advancing rapidly and your jamming system may not be effective. So how do you see this evolution taking place?
Ukrainian technology runs so fast, and for instance, let's see short future with Russian system like Shahed use Cometa antenna. It's a very specific and nice done antenna, which has a contact at the same time 17, 18, I don't remember, I think 17, 18 satellites and different, different directions. Just to jam Shahed, we need to have in one place roughly 12, 14 devices for electronic warfare. It's our future. We do our best to become it faster.
Okay, the last question, and we need to move to the second panel.
Yeah, so I'm Alex from Latvian Embassy. As you may know, Latvia and the UK, we are heading the drone coalition. Currently, the drone coalition has multiple aims. So, to ensure Western supremacy in drone production, there are some investments in research and development, ensuring fully Western-based supply chains, and also they're sending lots and lots of drones to Ukraine and money to Ukraine to buy drones and produce drones. Would you have any suggestions on what the drone coalition should focus on in terms of priorities and what to do in the future? So that's the question, and also the comment, as Roman and Mintro mentioned. I also don't see it as a bubble, because right now the drones are on Latvian borders, and they do monitor the border right now. So they are in the skies, and we're going to build the drone wall, which is going to be financed by the European Commission. So the money is there, the priority is there, the government is working on that. And also in the agriculture sector, for example, our forestry is using drones for probably around 10 years already. We are, mapping where we have, forests, how quality the forests are, how soon they need to be cut, are there some diseases. So all of that is already in civil use, and it's going to be even more in civil use. But yeah, the question about the priority of the drone coalition.
It's very difficult to tell, that because we have limited information about the priority, what actually our commanders has during the last exhibition in the Europe. The main request was to make very, not let's say cheap, but cost-effective, because I don't like word cheap. Cost-effective solution to fight with Shaheds or something like that. Actually, we had a lot of units, rockets, Ukrainian teams, but in my understanding, it's still not enough. And maybe there will be some technology we could use also, to destroy the Shaheds. That's what I remember the last one. And actually, we at the company, we also, I can talk only from our perspective, because I know what is going on in our country and very limited in the country. So because the information is so we have only some small number, but we are receiving from the units, so brigades we are working with. As we are talking about the tank core, we are looking for some technologies we could adapt. Actually, we are an integration platform. And if you have some solutions which we could integrate and work tomorrow on the front line, as example, to detect the FPVs. So right now the biggest problem for the UGV we have, it's the FPVs. So we need to detect them and to understand where they are, to make the maneuver or to do some job in advance. And it's possible time to time because the optical fiber, and I don't know how to translate, it's a waiting drone, the name, when the drone is just, staying close to the road and just waiting till the platform is coming closer. So actually we are looking for any of the solution we could use and install to find the drone, as I know, in advance, as more time we have, as more, we could do some things. Right now we have Ukrainian companies working on the solution to destroy physically the drones, but till now we have no clear understanding how to detect them on a bigger distance. And even if the drone is just staying on the ground and waiting for our robot, actually it's the biggest pain for us today, because our UGVs, they are main. So if we transfer the UGV, we use them as a logistic. Right now it's evacuation, they are saving lives day by day, but the FPVs, it's the biggest pain for us. If you can help, we are very open.
And I want to add that for European country, last week I have been in Lviv, where European Commissar talked a lot about role of drone, and it will be great to have ecosystems which allow to you detect drones and decide what to do, and immediately make some prevention of the drone, make attack, make a launch counter drone, or jump existing drone, or just don't do nothing, or maybe just to inform somebody. And good to have a general good and well-working solution with ecosystem, which allow to you not only detect, but even jam and prevent it. And even some drones were launched waiting for some vehicles on somewhere on the ground. Great to notice and detect this drone while they run to you, fly to you, before ground. Because when the drone ground, you will before attack will pass a few seconds, no more.
Roman, the last comment?
Yeah, last comment is, I would say exactly what the guys were saying. Look, tactical air superiority is, gonna be like the key thing. Like if you can actually, within like a couple of kilometers, if you can actually shoot down FPV drones and heavy drones, like we know how to shoot down the heavy drones, but the FPVs no. So there are some companies I'm investing in that are trying to do like physically like turrets. That's what we were talking about frontline. Yeah, like so. Yeah, they run away from me. But there's another guy who does the same thing. So frontline, like you guys basically creating turret to destroy drones, lasers, whatever. So if you can achieve tactical air superiority, that's what will allow people to make advances. And that is the key thing that everybody's working on right now.
Okay, round of applause to Roman. Roman, would you follow things right? Thank you. It's very helpful, and we're ready for our second panel. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, guys, I know there's a lot of people standing on the back. Can we have a seat, please? And can we close that door completely, please? I would like to ask you just to have a seat and close that door. Thank you. Okay, so I would like to start the second panel, and I would like to invite Alexander Tsivinsky, Director of the Economic Security Bureau of Ukraine. Alexander? Thank you. This one. So Alexander is the Director of the Economic Security Bureau of Ukraine. The bureau was created in 2021. It is its mission to investigate economic crimes in Ukraine, tax evasion, illegal business, money laundering, etc. So the second speaker, Viktor Pavlychuk, Head of National Agency of Corruption Prevention. They investigate any types of corruption in Ukraine and prepares cases for prosecution. And our third speaker, Alan Christensen, Head of the European Union of Anti-Corruption Initiative in Ukraine. And Alan has been working in Ukraine since 2020. Alan is a Danish diplomat, has held several roles at the Danish Foreign Ministry and the embassies abroad, including Latvia, Israel, and Austria. And our fourth speaker, Irina Borovets, and she's going to be our panelist. So she's going to run our panel. Irina has built a distinguished career in diplomacy, up to 2 decades in various diplomatic roles, including serving as Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. She transitioned to the private sector, and Irina is currently served as co-CEO of CAC Ideas, a consulting firm that supports Ukrainian and international companies in GR, public relations, and communications. Please, round of applause to our... All right, so the way we can start, I think we can go just briefly, if each speaker can tell what exactly your agency is doing.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, can I, as a moderator,
Sure.
can I ask your possibility a little bit to frame our discussion? Not just jump immediately into the presentation of themselves, but to frame the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes of our discussion. The previous panel paved a good way to what we are going to say today. The second panel. For years, it's not a secret that for years Ukraine has been perceived as a very corrupted country. And this perception was often based in our legacy, and they are very, deeply rooted in our society. And unfortunately, this perception still somehow remains a significant barrier to the kind of transformative investment that our country needs right now for recovery. However, I want to challenge this perception today with our speakers and to offer a different view. And I would dare to say that while Ukraine has been fighting a full-scale war, it has gone through the very transformative revolution in anti-corruption ecosystem. So, and today we are going to speak about it. Of course, I would like also to mention, and we have to be very honest here in the panel discussion, that still in our society there is a high level of distrust to anti-corruption bodies of Ukraine. And you're all probably familiar with Razumkov Center polls this March this year that showed very high distrust into these bodies, leveling between 60 and 65%, with even more distrust into the judiciary in the parliament, 73 and 77% respectively. But also, let's remember last summer when there was an attempt to curb the independence of anti-corruption bodies, or when there was a delay in the appointment of the head of the Bureau of Economic Security, people jumped into the street and protested. So we have a paradox. In a sense, people have a distrust into the particular bodies, but the very idea of having the independent anti-corruption system in Ukraine is widely important. So I would like to be honest with our panelists, and I would like to be very frank and to discuss how we can actually, how can we close this gap? How can we deal with this problem? Because let's not forget that our international recognition of our progress in anti-corruption is very high. For example, according to the Istanbul Anti-Corruption Action Plan, Ukraine is being assessed on par with some EU candidate countries or even member states, speaking that we showing the progress, and this progress is widely internationally recognized. So my first question will be to all the panelists, and going forward with this question, we'll give them an opportunity to present their agency and what they have been doing. So, anti-corruption issues and measures, the so-called anti-corruption mainstreaming, are cross-cutting throughout the EU negotiation membership process. Until the anti-corruption blocks are closed, the negotiation chapter itself cannot be closed. So my question is, what is your institution contributing to this ecosystem right now? Where do you see real progress and challenges? And what do you expect going forward? So please, I don't know, probably we can start from.
So much. Talking about international mystery, so to answer me, approach is the National Agency of Prevention, prevention, and very wide scope of functions. And additional function of anti-corruption industry is one of the latest we received. Marcus here.
Now it's a microphone.
Yeah, great. Better?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And but moving forward to introduction to Lithuania, maybe it's better to a little bit describe my agency. And here, this scope of functions includes shaping discussion policy. One of the main tasks, and among all other functions, we are in charge of drafting new integration strategy and implementing previous integration strategy for years 2021-2025. Also, our work is one of the challenges that we have. We have a wide range of stakeholders due to the other functions that we have, and among them we are working on public integrity issues. It's working with public sector, with public officials, and maybe less interested for business, but more interested for civil society. More than 700,000 officials are likely to these questions, and only one small function of an ECP in which back for check of raising integrity of public sector, and more additional functions that are can be also described by challenges. It's work with finances of political parties and finances of election campaigns during the elections, and one additional function that is more interested by business is planning public activity, which we started from the September 1st this year by establishing the transparency register. Talking about anti-corruption mainstream, thank you so much for mentioning overall perception of people in Ukraine. I want to mention that Ukraine should deliver on results for years by results of research of the person international. See that. But also we are in charge of conducting annual research inside an SCP. It's an independent agency, private agency, request of an SCP conducted. We conduct annually this research, and the latest research showed that we of course have a huge perception of corruption issue in Ukraine. This problem is perceived by people like second after the war. More than 80% of people were sad is the biggest problem after the war. And but we also have another to question in this research. Next question says, have you faced corruption in this year? And this number from year to year becomes lower and lower. For example, this year results it's more than 18%. Previous year, 21%, and 10 years ago it was mostly 70%. So it's also shown the result of the work of overall Ukrainian efforts fighting and preventing corruption in Ukraine. Talking about results, and you mentioned about anti-corruption network Istanbul Action Plan. Just today we presented those results in media, and it was a review published last week. They also showed that Ukraine achieved the best results among countries in this monitoring round, and achieved the best results in Swiss figures. First, of course, one of the main violence following corruption policy. Corruption policy received more than 90%. Also, it's dependent on corruption increases. And the second issue is whistleblower protection. That's why we can proud about that results that are more talking about from behalf of an SCP, more about prevention. And talking about anti-corruption mainstream, I think I already focused those issues that I mentioned corruption mainstream, and it's cross-cutting issue among all negotiation chapters in the negotiation procedure with European Commission and MSP's role, and to coordinate all the agencies who are passing through the process of screening, and then who will be implementing those measures that will be designed by European Commission with cooperation with all agencies and together with the ECB in future to present the best results in reforms in the anti-corruption sphere. That's why and one more additional assurance for the first time designed for the resurgence process for countries who are trying to enter the European Union.
Okay, let's move to Alexander.
Greetings.
Дякую за запрошення.
Thank you for inviting me.
Мені дуже приємно мати можливість розповісти про інституцію, а також про те, що ми робимо. Це дуже важливо.
I'm very glad to have the opportunity to tell about my institution and what we are doing because it's very important.
Бюро економічної безпеки я очолив 50 днів назад.
I became the head of the economic security bureau 2 days ago.
Бюро економічної безпеки відповідає насамперед за те, щоб побудувати ряд речей в Україні. Перше – це рівні умови для бізнесу.
And the Economic Security Bureau is responsible for a number of things that should be built up in Ukraine. The first of one of them is building equal conditions for businesses.
Друге – це безпека інвестицій, які приходять в Україну.
The second point is the safety of investments coming to Ukraine.
Безпека міжнародної технічної допомоги, яка надається багатьма країнами, також для України. Це одне з завдань, які прямо передбачені в нашому законі.
Safety of technical support coming to Ukraine, international support. This is one of the provisions of our legislation.
Ми є аналітичним правоохоронним органом, де 3/4 складає аналітична складова і 1/4 це правоохоронна діяльність.
We are an analytical and law enforcement body with 3/4 of our activities as analytical and 1/4 as law enforcement activity.
Водночас моє призначення є наслідком перезавантаження Бюро економічної безпеки. На теперішній момент ми перебуваємо на етапі трансформації як наших дій всередині, нашої культури, так і наших взаємовідносин з представниками бізнесу, з якими ми працюємо.
And my appointment to this position is the sign of the transformation and reloading of Economic Security Bureau, and the changes in our culture of our activities.
Вже на теперішній день ми розпочали діалог з багатьма представниками бізнесу, вивчаємо ті проблематики, які на теперішній момент є, та шукаємо максимально ефективний формат взаємодії, там, де ми будемо досягати наших завдань, забезпечувати економічну безпеку і в той же час допомагати бізнесу виконувати свою роботу. Тобто це такий формат роботи, коли є екологічний формат взаємодії.
So at the moment we have started contacting businesses in terms of this in terms of ecological interaction with the businesses to have the dialogue with them in terms of points of interaction and further activities.
Один з ключових викликів, окрім переатестації особового складу, яка на даний час розпочала, фактично весь процес переатестації особового складу запущений, ми розбудовуємо і наші IT-спроможності для можливості роботи з великими масивами даних.
So we have started the work with reloading the personnel of our agency, and at the same time we are growing our IT capacities to work with large databases.
Для того, щоб ми могли виявляти відповідні ризики і здійснювати ключовий напрямок діяльності на попередженні вчинення кримінальних правопорушень, їх недопущення, шляхом аналітичного підходу.
so that we can focus on the risks in order to prevent the criminal offenses by not letting them happen.
Окрім цього, працюємо з нормативною базою, та, яка вже прийнята на сьогодні, і та, яка планується до прийняття, для того, щоб максимально усунути можливі ризики, які можуть сприяти корупції.
At the same time, we are working with the legal framework, the laws that exist and the ones that are only being drafted, in order to prevent, to mitigate the risks of corruption.
Бюро економічної безпеки є складовою антикорупційної інфраструктури в частині економіки.
State Economic Security Bureau is a part of anti-corruption ecosystem in the terms of economics.
Okay, we can move to Cal.
Thanks a lot, Alan Christensen, head of the EU Anti-Corruption Initiative in Ukraine. A bit difficult to come after this first panel with these very inspiring young men who are doing these great things for your military. So not the best or the easiest outset for this panel, but let's try to do our best. I've been head of the EU ACR the last 5 years. We are an EU program implemented by the government of Denmark, and we have a small team of around 20 staff here. And the main thing we are doing is actually to support anti-corruption institutions. We build their capacity, provide IT, international experience, institutional development, whatever they need to do their work. And we also assist in terms of legislation, policy advice, and so on. We also work with the local authorities in 6 cities in Ukraine. We work with civil society and with independent media that we support. So it's like a very holistic approach to how we can address corruption. We know that that's the kind of approach you need if you want to have an impact. No doubt that we have seen good progress in Ukraine over the last 10 years or so, and of course difficult to measure, how to measure the level of corruption. So what you do is you measure perception, and Victor gave you some examples of how those surveys have developed. From our point of view, I mean, the most significant development we have seen has been establishment of these anti-corruption bodies, NABU with all the detectives, SAPU with prosecutors, and the High Anti-Corruption Court. And of course, NACP with all the preventive work and the policy work. So what has happened is that, I mean, when we look at the high level of corruption in Ukraine, if you go 10, 11, 12 years back in time, you could be a member of parliament, a minister, CEO of a state-owned enterprise, or a judge, and you were almost untouchable. You could do almost whatever you wanted. Very seldom that someone will take you to court if you were corrupt, and if your case went to court, then very seldom you will find a judge who will give you a guilty verdict. So that has changed. And I think no one is any longer above the law, no one has impunity, and I think that's so important for this society. Just to give you a few figures, the court that now has been in place since 2019 have given 444 persons a guilty verdict. 175 have received a prison sentence. Perhaps not big numbers, but when you think about the category of people we're talking about, it's really high-level people in the criminal society. It's actually not bad. Alone this year, NABU has initiated 500 new cases. 115 have received a notice of suspicion, so that's a formal investigation ongoing. 34 members of parliament have received that kind of notice of suspicion. So this is a new paradigm for Ukraine, and I think Ukraine can be very proud of these achievements. Of course, anti-corruption bodies is one thing. A lot of other things have happened during these years with e-declaration system, where all high-level officials will need to declare their income and their assets, together with the income and assets of their close family members. around 700 to 800,000 every year do that. It's an important tool for the anti-corruption bodies. We have the Prosoro online platform. All public authorities have a mandate to use this online system that has received several international awards. It's really a good system in place. We have the DIA app. I mean, all these digital tools that somehow limit the human factor in providing public services has a huge impact on how society develops. Whistleblower arrangements, Nictas institutions is in charge of many of those. And then I would say comprehensive reforms. We saw reforms just after Maidan in the field of energy, in the field of the financial sector and banking sector, that closed a lot of gaps for corruption there. When we go back in time, I remember we made a study showing that those gaps for corruption that were closed constituted around 6% of Ukraine's GDP. So it's really there that you can find a lot of extra resources for the public budgets. So compared to 10 years ago, this is another society. It doesn't mean that there are no longer any challenges. There certainly are, and corruption is still a big issue. And when we see our surveys, people will say that corruption is issue number 2 in Ukraine, just after Russia's war. And it also tells us that the tolerance of corruption in Ukraine is lower than ever. Before the war, people would say that corruption is like number 5 or 6 down the list after economic situation, employment, and whatever. So things have changed, and I think that's gives hope that it's possible to mobilize people around the anti-corruption fight. So let me stop here. I can say much more, but I'll come back to it.
Okay, thank you. We still have some ground to be proud of our anti-corruption endeavors, and I think we should not be modest on it, and probably our anti-corruption institution have to be more vocal on what they have been doing and with and what effect they are having on the Ukrainian society. But already, Victor, my next question is to you. You mentioned already the lobbying register. And this is something that made a lot of noise months ago within the business community. I know that NSCP, together with business community, have been prepared for months for the launch. So how was it? It's been already a month. How is it operated right now? And tell me, how do you make sure that this tool makes change in the culture of transparency in Ukraine and not remain or become just a technical, register which everyone neglect?
Thank you so much for your question. Yeah, I already mentioned about transparency register and lobbying activity. It was really hard for us. It was a long process. Due to even some challenges like stoppage of financing in the state, and we are really grateful to our partners from UK Digit, who also were so mobile to transfer the technical assistance and to help us build the register, and also to buy hardware for this register. And I always will compare myself in the mirror and my photo 1 year and a half before appointing on my position. Many silver hair added on my head, some of them from the transparency register. That's why our main task of in this establishing this register, establishing this function, is to show to establish integrity and transparency in our country, like we do it in other our functions in the city. And we want to make people aware And here we have three main stakeholders of this function. First of all, it's business, of course, then public officials and civil society. For civil society, it's easier. It's transparent, it's free, it's open, and they, like, for example, this register of e-declarations on the 10th year of it's operating. We've taught people how to submit declarations. We've taught people how to count money. We've taught people how to check, to see declarations, and how to check information from declarations. The same, we can talk about transparency first. It's just started, and I believe in a short period of time, people will be ready to read this information and analyze. And it's easy for civil society. For business, it's a great possibility to be involved in the process of adopting laws in Ukraine. So, despite those regulations mentioned in the law on lobbying, we also have changes to the law on parliament committees and the law on parliament procedures, which gives possibility to business for business to be involved in the process of adopting laws. For example, there is no right for parliament committee not to get lobbyists to the parliament committee meeting while discussing the law which lobbyists get information about that. And the most vital and maybe hard part of our work is to raise awareness of positive effects from lobbying law with public officials, with the objects of lobbying activity, because it's also vital for them to understand that they can hear business, they can receive analytical documents for drafting laws. And this activity that was previously hidden, not transparent, can be easy, transparent, and perceived by civil society and by people of Ukraine as a strict process of adopting laws in Ukraine. Now we have already 65 active, up to this day, 65 active lobbyists. 66 registered. It was one case of registered state-owned enterprise. This register, I don't know how they will submit the report in January 2026, but they stopped the activity. They registered mistakenly. And our aim is not prosecuting the Francis lobbying activity. It's to build overall system which is can be used by business and by governments and parliaments like a source for adopting laws of Ukraine.
Irina, I have a question. Can we just get, Irina, Victor, can we get to a practical thing? I'm a business, okay? So, there's a lot of technical stuff. I mean, you as the company, CCIT, is providing the lobbying assistance. How does it work? I'm a business. I came to you. I want to build something in Kiev, and I need a system. You are officially registered as a lobbyist entity. What next? Can you just a simple steps so people just understand? For example, I personally understand there is some lobbying thing, but I don't understand what it is exactly and how it works.
Is a question for me or for Victor?
For both of you.
Okay. From the business perspective, it's very easy. You have to be registered in the register. If you're gonna deal with the government on the subject of lobbying, meaning legislation. So, very simple. If you have this activity, you just register yourself, and the register is pretty friendly user, so it's very simple and easy to navigate. You just report your activities, what you do, for whom, how much did you receive for your services, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, what really big debates within the business community while the register has been still in making. But I think that after 1 month it has been launched already. The debate is less and less vocal, because people started to deal with the register, understood that it's not that scary as they imagine, and that it's pretty easy to deal with. However, if you're not prepared to be registered there, but you still, as a company, but you still need to deal with the government in the legislative kind of area, so you need to hire someone. So in a sense, you need to outsource this activity, and here comes the only number of the companies, including ours, big idea that could provide the services to you. Then it will be legal, and you will be the white lobbyist.
Question, for example, there's guys who are making drones, and we didn't have the law that allows us to export the weapons. So if my company is interested in that, so
you have to register someone from your company in this register and deal with this issue, the future law or whatever, or you hire someone to do it on behalf of you. Yes. And then an ACP will be happy with it.
So basically, I'm officially registered, and now I'm talking with my drone community. We want a law to be able to export the equipment. So then, when NCP sees the system, so that's a legal way to...
Yeah, and I think that Victor could elaborate a little bit whether an ACP will be, hunting those who are not registered and still make this activity or not.
Here we need to understand the way how we can get this information. Because ACP is not a law enforcement agency, and we even during full verification of declarations, the last time we even can't get out from the building and make, for example, photo manifests. The same, we are talking about lobbying activity. We can't move to the meetings and to see and to check. You are lobbyist or not? You are lobbyist or not? Yes, that's why if we are talking about getting information, we have getting information. It's more about public information, more about claims that can be provided by private business or by public officials. But nevertheless, the main task of MCP is to promote the way how business can influence adopting laws in legal way. That's why I think it's one more additional just comment. I think this issue of lobbying maybe can be a subject of different panel in different meeting where we can discuss, and I'll be waiting from UBN one additional more invitation to discuss this issue, because for example you mentioned about drones and weapon, and we need to understand there is many restrictions. Like some subjects of some issues can be laws that can be subject of lobbying activity, and also there is some methods can be used in these issues. Why it's better? First of all, we are working on awareness of people on this issue. We are in charge of preparing explanations of the law and giving possibility of people to understand exact examples like you mentioned in your question. But here I also mentioned my previous and first comments, we are agency on prevention. Yeah, and our task is to prevent such offenses, to prevent such misuse of it.
Thank you.
Okay. So then my next question is to you, Alexander. I cannot stop myself but asking this. Your appointment came after a serious political debate. It was completely a turmoil in Ukraine about your appointment. How do you use this as an opportunity to show that the Bureau of Economic Security is independent and credible? It's very simple, but maybe it's very, it's very tricky in a sense. Just be honest with us.
Так, дійсно, це було досить
цікавий челендж.
Yeah, this was quite an interesting challenge.
І я вважаю, що позиція громадянського суспільства мала вагоме значення.
And I think that the position of civil society had a serious impact here.
Для того, щоб я сьогодні був тут і міг з вами спілкуватися, так само розбудовувати новий формат бюро економічної безпеки.
For me to be able to be here today with you, to talk to you and to build the new format of the Economic Security Bureau.
І тепер ми обрали достатньо зрозумілу форму комунікації, а також взаємодії з громадянським суспільством, бізнес-спільнотою, міжнародними партнерами, яка полягає в наступному.
And we have chosen a very clear form of communication with our international partners, businesses and civil society. And this form of communication is as follows.
Тому що формат того, як відбулося призначення, це так само і є дуже велика відповідальність перед тими людьми, які його підтримали.
This format of how this appointment happened means great responsibility for the people who supported it.
І перше, ми публічно говоримо про наші проблеми.
The first, we are publicly talking about our problems.
В ході аудиту Бюро економічної безпеки я виявив дуже багато проблем, про які раніше ніхто не згадував, але які перешкоджають його роботі і ставлять під сумнів можливість досягнення успіху та виконання усіх необхідних завдань.
While auditing the Economic Security Bureau, I've uncovered a lot of issues that were not discussed before, but that hinder the activities of the Bureau and can prevent its success.
У нас достатньо відкритий діалог з бізнесом. Це теж нова форма взаємодії. Коли ми працюємо, якщо у нас є конкретна позиція, ми її відстоїмо, в той же час ми проводимо, застосовуємо такий підхід, що у разі, якщо ми помиляємося, ми це визнаємо.
And we have a very open dialogue with businesses. It's a new form of communication. We defend our positions, but at the same time, if we realize that we were mistaken, we are ready to
Ми повністю змінили філософію щодо нашої діяльності, відходячи від так званих радянських показників досягнення результатів нашого кримінального блоку, до більш зрозумілого для бізнесу результату і для громадянського суспільства в контексті покращення екологічної обстановки в певному регіоні чи в певній сфері, що дозволяє привнести більше надходження податків, а також зрівняти умови ведення бізнесу.
We have moved away from the Soviet philosophy of measuring the success of our activities into a more understandable for civil society and businesses ecological determination. That is how ecological is a certain region or field or certain activities, and this way we can have more taxes and more results.
Ми працюємо таким чином, щоб білий бізнес відчував себе комфортно, а ті, хто порушують правила, очікували несправедливо на відворотне покарання.
And we are making the terms more equal for the businesses, and that the legal businesses can feel themselves safely. And those who committed offenses must be expecting legal punishment.
Але от зараз я, слухаючи пана Алана, згадав свій перший день роботи в Національному антикорупційному бюро, який я пройшов у 2015 році і де я мав честь працювати останні 10 років.
And while I was listening to Alan, I recalled my first day of work at the National Anti-Corruption Bureau. I came to that to work at that position in 2015, and I worked there for 10 years.
Я можу з впевненістю сказати, що Національне антикорупційне бюро ніколи не досягнуло тих результатів, які воно має, якби воно не мало підтримки міжнародної спільноти, як з позиції як політичної, так і економічної, так і інтелектуальної.
And I can definitely say that the National Anti-Corruption Bureau would have never achieved such results without the support of international partners, the support in economical, intellectual and political terms.
І я сподіваюся на таку саму підтримку для нового органу Бюро економічної безпеки, оскільки саме нашим завданням є побудова екологічного бізнесу в Україні, коли кожен інвестор, який сюди прийде, зможе на рівних і чесних правах здійснювати свої бізнес-проекти, так само, як і інші підприємства. І там, де будуть одні правила для всіх.
And we are hoping for the same support for the for this new body, Economic Security Bureau, because its task is to create the ecological environment for businesses and as well as for international investors who will be sure to come to invest and operate on equal and fair terms for everyone involved.
Нашим важливим завданням є виведення з тіні близько 1 трильйону гривень для того, щоб ми могли владними цими можливостями максимально задовольняти ті потреби України, які на теперішній момент є.
And one of our tasks is also to drag from the shadow 1 trillion billions of assets which can be used to for Ukraine, which can be used to provide for the needs of Ukraine independently.
Це мова про тіньову економіку.
I'm talking about illegal part of the economy, which those numbers are estimated, but they can be trusted.
Водночас, на жаль, на наступний 2026 рік не передбачено якісного фінансування для Бюро економічної безпеки. Ми зараз ведемо багато консультацій з цього приводу. І просте порівняння – це те, що за однакових умов, передбачених законом, працівники Бюро економічної безпеки отримують на 60% менше заробітну платню, ніж ви повинні були отримувати в порівнянні з іншими органами. Тобто є зараз дискримінаційні умови, і для нас це дуже важливий point.
And unfortunately, in 2026, there's no adequate financial support planned for the Economic Security Bureau, and we are holding a lot of consultations to this matter, because though the law provides for equal terms of salary payment, the personnel of the Economic Security Bureau is receiving 60% less salaries than the personnel of other anti-corruption organs. So there are some discrimination issues here.
Що рівні умови можуть побудувати лише ті, хто перебувають самі в рівних умовах з іншими колегами в боротьбі за найкращі таланти.
And equal terms cannot be reached, can be built. They can be built only by those who work on equal terms with their colleagues, and in this search for the best talents.
I have a question actually before that's under. So I had a chance to speak with a former head of economic security bureau, and she told me that, Andrew, it's so unfair because every time there is an investigation takes place, SBU takes all the credit. And that never is mentioned that we did. And we did 70 or 80% of work to investigate that economic crime. And now, on top of that, there is not enough compensation for the workers of the Bureau of Economic Security. Any comments on that? Because it seems like SBU, everyone knows what it is in Ukraine, and most of the credit is given to SBU, but not that.
Я трошки уточню, я зрозумів, про що ви говорите.
I want to specify here. I've understood what's important.
Дуже важливий момент перший, це щодо фінансування. Я, як керівник інституції, не говорю про те, щоб там щоб працівникам збільшили зарплату. Моя єдина вимога – це справедливість і виконання закону. Тому що всупереч закону на теперішній момент він не виконується. Це щодо фінансування.
When I'm talking about financing as the head of the bureau, I'm not in any way insisting on raising the salary for the personnel. I'm talking about fairness and implementation of the laws, because the law which provides for equal salaries is not being implemented right now.
Щодо взаємодії з іншими правоохоронними органами, що стосується СБУ,
as for the interaction with other law enforcement bodies, SBU as well.
Ми будуємо іншу нашу комунікаційну платформу, і я переконаний, що результати біоекономічної безпеки будуть результатами біоекономічної безпеки. А якщо хтось буде допомагати, ми, звичайно, про це будемо вказувати.
We are building a new communication platform, and the results of the Economic Security Bureau will be the results and the credit of the Economic Security Bureau. And if there are other parties who help, then only we will mention them.
Водночас я переконаний, що боротьба з тіньовою економікою та максимальне самостійне фінансування потреб України все ж таки є пріоритетом, і ми зможемо досягнути взаєморозуміння щодо достатнього та належного фінансування нашої організації, яка зможе виконати це завдання.
Talking about shadow economy and independent financing of Ukrainian needs, I am sure that we will achieve this adequate financing of our bureau for it to be able to achieve its costs.
Okay, interesting. I think that, good communication is always the key to a positive perspective. So I wish Alexander and his institutions all the success in the endeavors, and it will be very nice to have Alexander a year from now and to discuss how they've been and what they achieved in a year. Alan, you mentioned already about the progress that Ukraine has made in the anti-corruption mainstream. But also there is a view that Ukraine has achieved more in the fight against corruption in just a few years that some candidates country have managed in decades. Do you personally agree with this statement? And what do you think has Ukraine done enough to open negotiation on EU membership? Yes, you don't know, or maybe some other things.
Thanks a lot. If you allow just 2 words about Alexander before I try to answer your question. Of course, Alexander was selected to a process that we were providing technical support to, an independent process, 3 internationals, 3 Ukrainians, a selection committee. They went through a number of different tests on qualifications, on integrity, interviews, and I would say that this is like the most transparent and merit-based selection process you can imagine in Ukraine. All the interviews were streamlined, publicly available. everything was sold. And therefore we were so pleased that in the end, instantly Alexander in the panel was, it was not an easy journey. So yes, I agree that Ukraine has done a lot of progress, and I think when you compare some of the other candidates countries, Ukraine is somehow front or at more or less the same levels as they are when you look at the TI index, corruption index. But again, I mean, so difficult to measure corruption, and what we measure is perception. I think it's also indicated that, and some experts will say that in Ukraine, people's perception is not like the full picture of the situation. Because there's this perception that Ukraine, that corruption is much more like widespread in society than people experience themselves in their own lives. So it's something like I'm like corrupt, but all the others. And I think, I don't know if it's like part of Ukrainian, like, I think it comes from structural historical things in Ukrainian society, but there's something about this, the mixed situation we're in as to perception and reality. Is Ukraine ready for negotiations of EU membership? Yes, I think that's a fact because the membership negotiations are opened in June last year. And I think if it wasn't because of one member state, then Ukraine will now be negotiating the first couple of chapters that have to do with rule of law and anti-corruption, by the way. And I think, this EU perspective has been so important for the reform progress we've seen in Ukraine. That's really been the driver behind the reforms, not least the field of anti-corruption. And we have seen throughout the years when Ukraine got candidate status, then the EU put forward some recommendations, 7 Dutch reports that Ukraine had fulfilled, many of them in the field of rule of law and anti-corruption. They were fulfilled. We had a lot of good progress in autumn 23, December 23, Ukraine. It was decided by the EU to open negotiations. Then there were 3 more things Ukraine should do, and then in June 24, the negotiations were open. And this linkage between EU integration and progress on the reform side has been very tight throughout the years. And now we are where you can say that there are 2 main aspects of the accession process and anti-corruption. One is that you have some acquis in Chapter 23 and 24 that Ukraine simply needs to fulfill, but not very much acquis because EU member states don't want that EU is controlling and regulating how they fight corruption. So very little acquis actually in this field. Instead, Ukraine now has what is called the rule of law roadmap that Ukraine needs to implement. That's actually a very good product that will make the anti-corruption stronger. And we are really waiting for these cluster chapters to be opened so that we can see more momentum there. And then there's the anti-corruption mainstreaming. And I think, in this closed room, this is really something difficult to treat. It is something new for the EU. That they are a candidate country to mainstream anti-corruption across all these 30 more chapters. Probably neither the EU Commission or Ukraine know really how to do that. We see a lot of potential in this, but we also see a lot of difficulties. Because, we talk about ministries that are fighting with so many other challenges at the moment, also due to the war and lack of resources, and then suddenly goes to the market that they need to have a policy how to fight corruption. So that's actually an issue. At the same time, we know that the needs are big because we know a lot of corruption takes place in customs, taxation, reconstruction, judiciary, and so on. But how somehow really to address it is not an issue.
Thank you, Alan. I have questions. Mark and I, it's not the only place where we deliver the message to the Ukrainian and international business community. We've been a couple of times involved. We speak with investors. We're not just a typical media company or a think tank. we speak with businesses. We're trying to convince them to bring the money to Ukraine. We, like, over the last, I would say, 6 months, I personally spoke with a few dozen of investors who actually consider Ukraine as a potential market to invest. However, everyone speaks about the corruption. And I asked the question, when were you the last time in Ukraine? Oh, I was there in 2006. It's been like, all right, so, because of the corruption, it's not even about the war. Nobody even talks about the war. People are not afraid of the war anymore, but there were always corruption. And you see corruption. Oh, my friend in 2002 had an issue, and blah, 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 blah. I said, guys, this is 2025. So my question is, I would say my question to each participant, I think the biggest issue is that a wrong perception. How do we change that perception? Alan, we get started. We as Ukrainians, and how we change that perception.
Right, and I mean it's Friday, it's late, so I will just say a few words on that. Because there's something with the perception. That's true. When I say Russian propaganda hasn't made it easier for Ukraine, it's clearly there's something with the perception. But you know, we also have another thing here, and that is, I think, what the anti-corruption institutions are doing now. They're cleaning up. What we see is not, I mean, when they have more cases every year that they investigate, it's not because there's more corruption, it's because they're cleaning up from the bad behavior of the past. And some of these scandals that, in a Ukrainian context, I mean, we see it's good. I mean, wow, they got the Supreme President, the President of the Supreme Court, taking red-handed with a couple of $millions, it's great, big clean up. But when you get that history in international media, it's, wow, people are shocked. Even Supreme Court, you find corruption. So there's also something there with that has to do with, I mean, that Ukraine should be better at like telling about where are we in the process of fighting corruption. It's cleaning up, it's not because we are something as a Supreme Court President. So clearly there's some communication work to be done. We try to help some of our partners with that, but it's difficult.
Victor.
First of all, I wanted to say that Alan already mentioned about the issue of communication. It's a vital issue for all that and presenting results for Ukraine. And here there's few ways to achieve such result, to make people aware of the results and the real situation that we have in Ukraine. First, well, of course, we need to understand that we will be never able to fight Russian propaganda, because we have no such so much money to fight Russian propaganda. That's why we have the only resources, people who are representing Ukraine from the public service, people who are living in Ukraine and can speak, and also our partners. Here, talking about the partners, we have website and our product digest that we try to deliver through the Ministry of International Affairs. Deliver directly to our partners abroad with exact information, without manipulations, and exact data they have received and analyze. One more additional issue is other partners, where ECP also plays a pivotal role as all our monitoring groups, for example, under the OECD of Greco, where we report the best results in the review on integration and integrity presented in April 2025, right? OECD. Secretary General of OECD came even presented it. Many people, even among public officials, during the presentation were seeming shocked with the results we present. And they are based on other monitoring process, PII, public integrity indicators. which were presented in December 2024 in OECD and showed that Ukraine achieved higher results than average among countries members of European Union and European Commission. Yesterday, it was invited to another meeting in National Agency on Civil Services in Ukraine, and it was presentation of this result. And I saw that we, in December 2024, we had small results in other countries on the issue of water. So I'm waiting, you've already presented, established the transparency register, and I believe we can be higher in this issue. And of course, the backlash is big of Ukraine. First of all, we need to understand and to believe in those results we have, and to deliver all the changes that are already mentioned. You can look back 12 to 15 years ago when nobody can talk about corruption. Now we can easily talk about corruption, present results from corruption agencies, where we need to understand it's not the example of huge amount of corruption, it's example of good bad corruption agencies, and present them fraud. People need to also be aware of those results, like positive results of the Ukraine. And here it's vital to deliver such also presented or mentioned about transparent IT products we have. And for me, it's easy to talk with markets abroad and to say, for example, we have possibility to sell cars without visiting any state agency. For representatives from Germany, it's unbelievable. And for example, another issue, why? Yeah. Without even being in one city. It's also examples where people have no communication with representatives of overseas and with public officials. And there is no discretion, where we have no discretion, corruption. It's from the side of, from behalf of DCP, the last thing I will try to mention is, of course, moving forward, implementing those reforms, and first of all, reforms mentioned in the corruption document. We need to implement it, we need to focus on new anti-corruption program, and move forward and next 5 years, new anti-corruption program.
Thank you, Victor. Alexander, so how can we change that perception? How can we change on how Ukraine is being perceived? Because the progress of fighting corruption is obvious. How can we change that? The image of Ukraine is not a corrupt country.
Саме для того, щоб бізнес отримав кращу умову своєї діяльності в Україні, свого часу було створено бюро економічного обстеження.
For businesses to have better conditions for their activities in Ukraine, in its time, the Economic Security Bureau was created.
Для того, щоб, якщо є кримінальні правопорушення, цим займався лише один орган.
If there are any criminal offenses, there is only one body responsible for dealing with them.
І ніс відповідну відповідальність за екологічне здійснення бізнесу в Україні.
And the same body to be responsible for the ecological climate of business activities in Ukraine.
Тому що багато проблем, про які ви згадували, навіть це нехай було дуже давно, це якраз не просто проблематика ведення бізнесу, а коли через неконкурентні умови, через певні порушення, через злочини бізнес втрачав свої активи і ведення бізнесу було небезпечно.
And many problems you mentioned, including those that happened a lot of years ago, were because there weren't fair conditions for businesses, either non-competitive terms or maybe due to criminal offenses or due to other businesses lost their assets.
Я переконаний, що за останні 10 років Україна зробила величезний крок в своїй антикорупційній діяльності. Дійсно, те, що 10 років було просто неможливо, це притягнення до корупціонерів, на теперішній день це реальність.
And I'm sure that throughout these 10 years, Ukraine has made great progress in fighting corruption. And what is unreal 10 years ago, like criminal prosecution of top corruptioners, is a reality now.
Водночас для того, щоб досягнути такого ж поступу і в контексті бізнесу, для того, щоб він міг здійснюватися безпечно, і для того, щоб бути зрозумілі правила гри.
At the same time, to achieve the same progress in the context of fair business, fair conditions for businesses, and for clear rules of the game.
Має спрацювати ряд інституцій.
There should be a number of institutions.
Але бюро економічної безпеки це, очевидно, є однією з наших ключових відповідальностей для того, щоб досягнути ефективності і насамперед довіри від бізнесменів, від заходу, від інвесторів, щоб вони могли безпечно собі інвестувати.
And it is one of the tasks of Economic Security Bureau to bring trust for businesses and Western investors for them to be engaged and believe that they can have their activities here in a safe point.
Що сьогодні спільно з іншими інституціями ми впроваджуємо нові підходи, і я сподіваюся, через певний час, подолавши всі перешкоди, про які я сьогодні згадував, і насправді набагато більше, ми досягнемо того ефекту, коли бізнес Україна, інвестиція буде сприйматися як гарний вигідний проєкт.
And in cooperation with other institutions, and after implementing our new approaches to overcome the problems, I have mentioned some of them today, but there are much more. I'm still sure that we will achieve, in the future, we will achieve these conditions when business projects in Ukraine will be perceived as safe and good and reliable.
Саме тому я прийняв рішення очолювати інституцію, приймав участь в конкурсі, і зараз наша команда активно над цим працює.
That's why I've decided to be the head of the bureau. I was appointed on a competitive business, on a competitive basis, and now our team is actively working on it.
Без інвестицій, без бізнесу неможливо досягнути перемоги. Це наш єдиний шлях до перемоги і до вибору.
Since with no investments and no businesses, we will not be able to achieve victory. It's our only path and way to victory and to well-being.
Thank you,
Andrew, I suggest to open up a floor for discussion because we are running out of time and there are enough people.
The last thing I would say, we had the first event 2 years ago. We had one speaker, and she said, "Look, I have 80 international companies that provide financial services. 80 companies would provide financial services to, and none of them have problems with corruption. We do everything by the law. We do everything by the book. We have no issues." And he said he was working with these organizations for over 10 years. So the last question would be for Victor and Alexander. How can you help business? If the business comes to you and says, "I have an issue," just short answer and we'll start with Victor.
We'll talk about which part of results role discussion agencies. Here I want answers. We just need to look for a job.
I think this will be the best result. Talking about deeply about some functions, I think it's more about second standards. Like if we can talk about this compliance, which also vital functions like not covered today, it's login activity. As I already mentioned, can be the issue of discussion next time in wider possibility to talk and overall from Ukrainian business attractiveness doing our job.
Thank you. Alexander. So how economic credit security bureau can help business? If business comes to you, how can you help?
Ми вже розпочали це робити.
We have already started helping businesses.
І ці треки досить зрозумілі.
And these tracks are quite clear first.
Наприклад, до нас звертається бізнесмен, який виробляє певну продукцію, а десь поряд виробляється продукція незаконно, контрабандно, без сплати податків.
For example, a businessman comes to us and they are producing certain products, and somewhere near him there's another company, but they're producing counterfeit products and they do not pay taxes.
Для нас цінна ця людина і для нас цінні його податки. Тому ми будемо працювати і перевіряти цю інформацію досить ретельно. Я певно, що
We value this person and we value the taxes this entity pays, and we will check this information and verify it, hopefully very efficiently.
Друге, є ситуації, коли на ринку є різні гравці, і є певні системні порушення. До нас звертаються бізнесмени, наш запланований захід. Коли ми збираємо цих гравців спільно з представниками інших інституцій, інформуємо, що є ось такі правила. Перед тим, як почати робити якісь реактивні заходи. І ті, хто порушив ці правила, ми будемо реагувати, тому що світ їздить до використання кримінальних правових заходів.
Since there are different players on the market and there's the problem of systematic offenses, we hold the meetings with the stakeholders before implementing any response activities, and we inform them about the systematic offenses and that these offenses are going to be punished, even involving criminal prosecution.
Інший приклад – це тоді, коли є різні нормативні документи, які створюють дуже складну процедуру для діяльності бізнесу, а інколи змушують представників бізнесу з кимось домовлятися, давати хабарі. Тобто це надзвичайно складно робити. Тоді ми спільно опрацьовуємо цю нормативну базу та пропонуємо уряду щодо внесення відповідних змін. Тобто ці пропозиції йдуть не хаотично від різних представників бізнесу, а йдуть від нашої інституції.
There's also another problem that sometimes there are some legal documents with quite complex procedures for businesses, which forces the businesses into briberies. And then we build up the offers, the proposals concerning this legal framework. So these are not some different proposals from different businesses, but they are unified proposals for amendments prepared by the bureau.
Є ще ряд інших прикладів, я не хочу знати багато часу, але ключовим нашим завданням є досягнення у представників бізнесу, які працюють чесно, відчуття справедливості.
There are a lot of other examples. I don't want to waste a lot of time, but our key task is to help businesses feel the fairness of their conditions, their activities.
Ми розпочали розбудову цих можливостей. На теперішній момент Бюро економічної безпеки має лише 1/4 цієї штатної чисельності, зокрема проблеми, які я казав раніше, в фінансуванні, тобто для нас не передбачений бюджет для розвитку, але навіть і цими можливостями ми вже розпочали конкретні дії для того, щоб показати, що є інший формат взаємодії.
And we are already working on building this possibility, and unfortunately our bureau has only 1/4 of personnel employed, which out of total number provided. And we have no budget for development, but I'm sure that we will achieve the results, even certain results, even with this limited.
Thank you, Alexander. We'll take a couple of questions and we'll get too far.
My name is Andrei Guzarov. I'm a strategic advisor for British Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for all presentations, for your sincere answers. I'm also a lawyer with 20 years experience, so I know what does it mean rule and what does it mean law. I have a very simple question to Alexander Zelensky. You have been working in NABU, now you are working in BED. So you see the evolution of the system, law system, all the reforms. Very short and simple question about your personal attitude and your personal maybe recommendations, how you see the next 2 or 3 steps during the next 6 months, what we should do, not personally you in your bureau, but generally in our system to strengthen rule of law. Because, for example, the Pat Toms, the co-chair of British Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, he already tried to, I don't know, maybe for 4 years, have been trying to promote his idea to create judicial ombudsman in Ukraine, a special, it's actually a Swedish model, special prosecutor who has the right to check the decision of a specific court, not to replace the court, not to interfere with the independence of the court, but to try to bring the decision of the first instance, like to say, to the next possible rehearing. Because, as far as I know, from my foreign partners, foreign investors, foreign clients, there's a huge, really huge corruption risks between first instance and appeal. And how we can tackle all the problems, because the corruption in Ukraine is like a cancer. You try to repair one thing, then it appears in another, in another, in another, in another. How we can be realistic in systematic approach towards this. Thank you very much.
Гарне питання. Дякую.
The first 6 months.
Зараз є перша переатестація.
First is the recertification of the personnel.
Розбудова команди.
Building the team.
І усунення тих перешкод, які перешкоджають діяльності Бюро економічної безпеки.
And moving away certain barriers that hinder the activities of the firm.
Зміна філософії щодо аналітичних підходів.
Changing the philosophy in terms of analytical approaches.
Концентрація кримінального блоку на ключових, найбільш складних напрямках для досягнення зрозумілого ефекту як для держави, так і щоб це побачив бізнес. Я не кажу, що ми досягнемо якихось глобальних результатів, але результати точно будуть.
And concentration of the criminal law on some key directions for it to be visible for the state and for the businesses. I'm not promising any great results, but some results will certainly happen.
Ключовий елемент, на мою думку, над яким я працюю і який ми будемо досягати, це є доброчесність. Доброчесність працівників, доброчесність у взаємодії з бізнесом. Це для мене перший point.
And the key element, in my opinion, that I'm working on is the integrity of the workers. The integrity in working with businesses is the first element for me.
Щодо справ, які розглядаються. Одним з практичних виходів, які можуть бути застосовані сьогодні, це у складних і кримінальних провадженнях, там, де дуже високі суми і високі ризики, прийняття рішення щодо підсудності їх за Вищим антикорупційним судом.
Talking about the cases being investigated right now in complex criminal proceedings, when the matter of the case is a big amount of money, then we are talking about bringing these cases into the jurisdiction of the high anti-corruption courts.
Насправді, от у відповіді на ваше запитання, з реальних кроків, які можна зробити вже сьогодні, це, напевно, наразі єдиний крок, тому що дійсно судова система вона перенавантажена, і взагалі розгляд складних економічних кримінальних проваджень потребує часу, ресурсів і відповідних компетенцій. І це дійсно дуже складно, коли розглядається, коли суд перенавантажений, тут приходить надзвичайно складне провадження, і треба розуміти, що шанс його розгляду в встановлені строки, він дуже низький.
And in answering your question, is probably the one step that can really be implemented, because the judicial system is really, there's a huge workload in the judicial system right now, and trying complex economic criminal cases needs a lot of resources, time and competences, and of course when such a complex case is beginning to be tried by the court, of course it's difficult to expect some immediate results. Have I answered your question?
Thank you, Alexander. I think we have to wrap it up. Victor, Alexander, Ella, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, and round of applause to our speakers. Hopefully we can stay for a bit. So we have to run to work. Again, thank you so much for coming. So please feel free to grab a drink. Again, thank you to Garage Bank and Alexander Group for sponsoring our event. And we'll see you on December 12th, same place, same time. Thank you.